dark haze. Ladies of the night with eyes of red, vampires in the alleys where good men dread, wolfmen howling beneath the pale moon. But justice is coming and coming soon. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep, nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. Cryptids themselves, yet they stand tall against the darkness, answering the call for every lost soul, every whispered prayer. They fight for the light in the midnight air. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep, nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. The night is young, the hunt begins. For against the darkness where hope never ends.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to episode number 398 of the Nightmare Hunters. We're proud to have you guys with us, and we're building up to Big 400. That's going to be a good milestone for us. But tonight, we're going to have an awesome show for you tonight. True cryptid encounters of Bigfoot, Dogman, and other creatures in the dark. 7 real cases from rangers, loggers, and law enforcement. But tonight in the studio with us is Robbie Jed Rains and Carrie Pocket Talk Davis. Apparently, Steve got called in because of the weather, and I hope because of that weather, y'all are staying warm and staying safe. Right here in southwest Missouri, it's 6 degrees right now with a wind chill of -8. So wherever you are, whatever the weather conditions, I hope you guys are staying safe and got a good warm blanket and curled up by the fire. Going to listen to some great stories tonight. Doc, how's conditions out in the great state of Colorado?
Cold, snowy, and crazy.
How much snow you got on the ground out there?
We didn't get that much last night, maybe 4 inches, 5 inches, and we're supposed to get maybe some tomorrow, maybe not. Depends on what the weather forecaster says. So
Forecaster.
That's what they are.
We've got about 3 inches on the ground right now, and local forecast is saying 6 to 14 more by morning.
Y'all gonna get more than us. It got down to -5 here last night, so I'm gonna tell you what, it was a little bit on the chilly side.
It's supposed to have only like a high of 3 tomorrow.
Phew, Lord.
That's what one of my sergeants in the Army, a guy named Worrell P. Romaine, I'll never forget that guy, but what he used to refer to as ball shriveling cold.
That is a true statement.
And Robbie, how's the weather at the foothills of the Appalachians?
We're right at the freezing mark right now. Snow hasn't started. It's supposed to start anytime between now and 10. Light snow until I think they said about 1. Then it'll rest off for a while, and then it's supposed to be heavy snow all day tomorrow.
Ooh.
Well, wherever you're, like I said, wherever you're at and whatever the weather's hitting you, I hope you guys are safe, warm, and snuggled in because we got some good stories for you tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. I wish Steve the best. I hope he's safe. I'm sorry he couldn't be here with us tonight, but hopefully he'll be here with us next Saturday. But tonight we're going to jump in. We're going to be talking about real cases from rangers, loggers, and law enforcement. Night doesn't just fall in the wilderness. It tends to just rise. It seeps up from the forest floor, filling the spaces between the trees, swallowing the last traces of daylight until the world becomes nothing but silhouettes and breath and the sound of your own heartbeat. Out there, past the reach of the headlights and the campfires, the dark has weight. It has presence, and sometimes it has footsteps. Across North America, from the desert mesas of the Southwest to the frozen lakes of the Boundary Waters, people who work the land, loggers, rangers, deputies, tell stories they don't share with anyone else. Stories whispered over coffee at 3 a.m. Stories that never make it into the official reports. Stories about things that move too fast, stand too tall, and watch too closely. Things that aren't supposed to exist. Tonight we're stepping into those stories. Real encounters, real witnesses, real creatures. Predators that pace the tree line, shapes that keep up with the patrol cruisers, voices that shake the granite walls of Yosemite, eyes that burn red in the beams of a deputy spotlight. These aren't legends. These aren't campfire tales. These are documented encounters from the people who know the wilderness best, the ones who patrol it, work it, and survive it. And every one of them came face to face with something that defies explanation. So settle in, folks. Check the locks and listen closely, because the creatures in these stories ain't hiding in the shadows anymore. They're standing just outside the light, waiting for you to notice. And this is the Nightmare Hunters, and tonight we're going hunting in the dark. Doc, how about you lead us off in the first segment?
All righty then. That sounds like a winner. Everybody buckle up, buttercup, and throw your blankets on and get you a beverage. Mine is sarsaparilla. So,
and before you start, though, I want to say thanks to Bobby for the 5 gifted subs.
Yes, thank you for that.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And
someone gave us a super chat right as you started the intro. So,
that is awesome.
Yeah, $2 super chat. So thank you.
That is awesome. I didn't even see that.
Yeah,
there we go. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you, brother.
So this the first segment is going to be, we're going to talk about the quadruped in the rear view. The source of this information is from the Navajo Nation police in 2000 around the Arizona, New Mexico region. And the witness was the tribal police officers there. And the cryptid type we're talking about is a large, fast quadruped predator. Say that 6 times real fast. The desert nut had a way of swallowing sound. Out on the far edges of the Navajo Nation, where the highway thinned into a single ribbon of cracked asphalt, Officer Daniel Begay knew the silence all too well. It was the kind of silence that pressed against the windows of the cruiser and made the radio static feel like company. He was running a routine patrol, mile markers, empty road, nothing but sagebrush and the distant silhouettes of mesas when the call came in. Possible livestock attack, east of Black Mesa Road. Caller reports something still on the property. Begay acknowledged and swung the cruiser off the highway, tires crunching over gravel, and the ranch sat alone on a wide stretch of open land. The nearest neighbor was miles away. A single porch light glowed like a dying ember. As he rolled up to the house, the rancher was already outside, shotgun in hand, shaking hard enough that the barrel trembled. Something's out there, the man said. Not a coyote, not a dog. Bigger. Begay scanned the dark, and the air smelled like dust and blood. And he followed the rancher to the corral. One sheep lay torn open, ribs exposed. The ground around it churned up with deep gouges, and the bite radius was wrong. It was far too wide for a coyote and too narrow for a mountain lion. And then the tracks. Begay crouched. He shined his light over the footprints. They were canine, but they were oversized. Heck, they were massive. They had elongated toes and claws that dug deep into the dirt. The stride length was impossible. Whatever made them was fast and heavy and confident. He radioed dispatch, but before he could finish the transmission, the sheep behind him bleated once, sharp, panicked, and something moved in the dark. Fast. Too fast. Begay spun, his flashlight swept across the corral, and for a moment he saw nothing, and then the beam caught a shape just beyond the fence line. Low to the ground with broad shoulders, a head far too large for any known predator, and eyes reflecting a pale yellow. It stared at him. Why, not afraid, not startled. It was just watching. And then it moved, not away, around, circling. They gave back toward the cruiser, keeping the light trained on the shifting silhouette, and the creature paced him, staying just outside the beam, its movement silent except for the occasional scrape of claws on rock. He reached the driver's door, slid inside, and locked it. The rancher scrambled in the passenger seat. Begay started the engine. The creature broke from the brush. It sprinted toward the cruiser on all fours, but with a gait that didn't match any animal Begay knew. Too long in the limbs, too fluid, and too deliberate. He floored the accelerator, and the cruiser shot forward, gravel spraying behind him. And the creature veered, then matched their speed, running alongside the vehicle. Begay risked a glance, and its head was level with the window. It was huge, wolf-like, but wrong. The muzzle was too long, the shoulders were too high, and the body was too lean and predatory. It kept pace at 40 miles an hour, and then 50, and then 55. Begay pushed the cruiser harder, engine whining. The creature lunged, slamming its weight into the rear quarter panel. The vehicle fishtailed. The rancher screamed. Begay corrected, and the tires gripped the asphalt, and the creature fell back. For a moment, he thought it was giving up. Then it surged forward again, closing the distance with terrifying ease. Begay hit the spotlight, swinging it toward the thing, and the beam caught it full in the face. And for the first time, the creature reacted, jerking away, snarling, teeth flashing white in the glare. It peeled off in the darkness, disappearing in the sagebrush as if it had never been there at all. Begay didn't slow down until they reached the highway. He pulled over, hands shaking on the wheel. The rancher sat there in stunned silence, and behind them, the desert was quiet again. Too quiet, as if something out there was still watching, still waiting, still hungry. 55 mile an hour, and then it body checked them.
Yeah.
How you explain that one to you, Sergeant?
No
Dude.
kidding.
Yeah, there's a whiz quiz in your future for sure with that one, brother.
I don't know. On the Navajo res, they'd probably just go,
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. Down there,
but Navajo police would be just like, well, make sure you take a partner next time.
yeah, in the Four Corners. I mean, that is, yeah, I would agree with that. But holy crap.
And that is not even close to the weirdest things that have been seen on the Navajo res.
Right. So, let's talk about witness credibility here. I mean, you got the Navajo Nation police officers. They're trained. I mean, they have extensive experience in a very, very rural area. They have a huge amount of territory to cover with very few officers. And over the years, there have been multiple officers that have reported similar encounters with these things. And
There are a couple of Navajo Rangers who are retired. That's what they did. They went and hunted the weird things on the res. They've made the circuit on some of the podcasts. I've been trying to reach out to them, but so far I haven't had any luck getting contact.
I remember you talking about them on one of the shows. That'd be awesome because these guys have seen it. They've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and the reports. And probably these guys, if we could get them on, they would probably talk about how the livestock are getting slaughtered. And the other thing too, they're talking about the pacing the vehicles. So that seems like a common theme with these animals are these cryptids and aggressive behavior. Obviously, that thing was all kinds of ticked off. You know what I mean?
That's super aggressive.
Yeah. It's body checking a freaking patrol car at 55 miles an hour. Dang, dude.
But it's hard enough to make it fishtail.
Right.
That begs the question: how many more stories like that are there that we probably will never hear? Because it's on a reservation and it's just not something that we're privy to.
Yeah. Northwoods, you're right, man. Better to have the Rangers hunting the weird stuff than having the weird stuff hunting people. And the fact that this thing was keeping pace, that's way faster than a dog can run. I mean, I don't know how fast a greyhound can run for the greyhound races, but I guarantee you a greyhound, even if it was moving 55 miles an hour and it ran up against your car, it ain't going to make your car fishtail. So whatever this thing was big.
Just a guy. I'm gonna attempt to try to explain this because it's kind of complicated. Technically, the Navajo Nation is its own nation. They are empowered by branches of the U.S. government to have their own police force, and they're technically federal law enforcement because they get their commissions through, I believe it's the Bureau of Indian Affairs, not like the FBI or anything. And they're free to investigate and prosecute anything on the res except murder. And that is the only time the FBI will get involved. And from what I've been told from some people I knew that grew up on the res, the FBI usually is less than helpful. We'll just put it that way. Yeah, they figure if it was just if it happened on the res, it can just stay on the res.
Thunderheart gets into that. That's what that whole movie is kind of based on, is the FBI going in to investigate murders and the tension between the FBI and the BIA.
Right. Yeah, I had a friend of mine who used to work for BIA. Wait, the Bureau of Indian Affairs is under the Department of the Interior. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the behavioral notes on this thing. I mean, circling. So it didn't come straight at them. It was circling around. What does that indicate? I mean, that's
predatory behavior.
Yeah, it's definitely predatory behavior.
Huge predatory behavior, because you see lions will circle their prey. Wolves will circle their prey. And then the attack, we already talked about that. That was definitely aggressive. I think it was super aggro, and it did not like the spotlight. It did not care about it at all, because how much of its night vision just got blasted. You know what I mean?
Right. And Doc, how did they describe the tracks?
Canid and massive, canine-like, but larger and bigger, kind of like those tracks they found in Meeker.
Kind of like those tracks that we found in Joe Bald.
Oh, that's exactly right.
They were a full canine track with a slightly elongated heel pad that was bigger than this. And that's my fist next to that knife.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
So this knife folded, I think it's like 6 1/4 inches long, and it had about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch on either side of this knife.
Wow. Yeah,
Robbie's got one just like it, and he laid it next to it to measure it.
Long Queen's got a good point too. She said it was doing a risk analysis and hunting for weakness in the men. Absolutely, that's what they look for. I believe it, and we've talked about it in many shows, that these things are opportunistic. So they're going to hit whatever they can hit if it's an easy target.
No. This isn't opportunistic, Doc. You're reading this completely wrong. There were sheep there unprotected, and it went after armed men.
No, that's what. Well, I'm saying it's going to get I mean, not opportunistic in that regard, but it's going to get it's going to go for whatever food source it can, and it didn't care whether they had guns or not. So
right. It chose them over the sheep.
Right.
Well, and two, it could have been. It was definitely predatory, but it also could have been, hey, you're in between me and my meal, so now I'm going to make you my meal.
Right. I mean, chasing them out.
Yeah, because they were down there in between it and the sheep it just killed.
Yeah.
You put yourself between a predator and its meal, 9 times out of 10, you're going to become the meal.
Okay. Then why did it keep chasing them? If it was just driving them away from the meal, when they took off down the driveway, it would have circled back, went back to its kill, and ate. But it chased them all the way out to the highway at 55 miles an hour and still attacked the vehicle.
Hyper aggressive.
Yeah. Maybe it wanted some of them. I don't know.
It was switching from veal to long pig.
Yeah. People, it's what's for dinner.
Yeah,
that's right.
This is all speculatory, people. This is just us spitballing and seeing what's sick. Because it could have started off, you got between me and my meal, and now you're the meal. And then when they ran, it just triggered that predatory response, and it just chased. And then maybe somewhere along the line, it turned from that to get out of my territory. Yeah. Who knows? Like I said, we're just throwing things out there.
We're just hypothesizing.
Yeah. But it just seems odd to me that if it was purely predatory, that it would have chased them away and then circled back and either ate that sheep or killed the rest of them. But it didn't do that.
I think them running triggered the predatory response. Because what's the first thing that most would, you go to walk in a pub or a national park or something like that, and little rangers do their talk. What's the first thing they say? If you come across a predator, don't run. And everybody knows that we've learned that from the time we were little kids. If a dog comes up at you, don't run. If you're in the woods and you see a bear, don't run, because that triggers. If you're in the ocean and you see a fin, you don't start splashing and trying to swim to the shore as fast as you can, because that triggers that predatory response in all predators. So that's now hearing that and thinking it and not doing it in a situation like that are totally different things. So I can't say as I blame them for running to the car, but without knowing exactly what creature we're talking about and all the the ins and outs of how it thinks and operates, all we can do is kind of speculate. So I think it might have started out as predatory, and then just changed into chasing them out of the territory.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing too is around here. The morphology of it was wolf-like, right? That's what they said. It was wolf-like, but it was leaner and more muscular. So,
we've often postulated that Dogman can run, spends probably the bulk of its time on all fours. Right, it would be significantly faster.
Right, and so the thing is, these guys, what do they have to gain by telling this story? So law enforcement encounters, especially with a law enforcement officer who comes out with this information, I mean, they have something to say. So you better listen to them. They're not doing this just for the attention. And so that's a high amount of credibility.
Most of the time, we don't want the attention that
exactly
stories.
Exactly.
Dang,
but this one was just too weird. And the speed and the shape of the body. It aligns with the other, what does it say? The Wendigo adjacent quadruped reports across the Southwest. But, not only Wendigo adjacent, but how many skinwalker reports do you hear across the Southwest? As far as that goes too. So, especially on that res, and you don't even say that word down there.
Well, your friend had a
yes,
as my buddy Wes said, coyote encounter on the Navajo res.
Yes, he did. And he doesn't even like to talk about it to this day. And that's been dang near 20 years ago, man. It rattled him, dude. And he doesn't rattle easily, but it rattled the crap out of him.
Lone Queen says elongated toes might indicate it does walk bipedally. Other stories y'all have read described elongated rear. Yeah, mainly the heel and midsection of the pad seems to be elongated. And that would make sense for it to have better balance when upright.
And I wonder if that thing did what we on that other show. Remember how the hands went in and it ran like that?
Yeah.
The claws went in. I don't know.
That would explain why you hear a popping sound when it gets up, too.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the prints he was looking at was probably it on all fours feeding on the sheep. And
probably.
It was just down there feeding on the sheep. So he probably never saw anything other than like those prints like that. Because it sounds like they didn't have time to really investigate the scene.
I mean, it was on them like a duck on a June bug, son. I mean, it was on it. And
Standing stones, that sounds like a pretty terrifying encounter.
I saw it on two legs, pure black upright kind of legs like a wolf, and the three little pigs across 4 lanes in 2 seconds. Woo! That's cruising.
That's moving.
Yeah, that's cruising right there, boys. Well,
so do you think that, okay, and then this is just me spitballing here, boys. Do you think that the livestock were its target the whole time, or it was trying to lure the farmer out?
I don't know. I mean, maybe this is me spitballing, like Robbie said. Maybe it was out there dining, and it just brought the attention of the farmer out there for them cutting up. I don't on
Okay,
that.
the description it said is he followed the rancher to the corral. One sheep lay torn open, ribs exposed, the ground around it churned with deep gouges. The bite radius was wrong, too wide for a coyote, too narrow for a mountain lion, and the tracks. They were canine but oversized, massive with elongated toes and claws that dug deep into the dirt, and the stride length was impossible. So it looked like if it had busted open the rib cage, it was going after the heart, probably the liver,
Yeah. All the real nutrient dense,
the nutrient dense bits.
Yeah.
Which fits with what other stuff that we've read too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the track description is very much like what we found down in Joe Bald.
And like I said, what was described in Meeker, they said it was way too big. It was canid DNA.
Unknown.
Unknown canine.
Unknown, yeah. But the tracks were far too big for any, even the wolves. And the wolves were like 150 miles north of there.
Yeah. The nearest wolf pack was at least 150 miles away. Yeah. But for it to come back unknown canid, that rules out that wolf pack.
I know. It's funny, man.
Because if they're tracking wolf back, guarantee they knew what they were.
Yeah.
The unknown canid still just kind of makes me laugh every time I hear it.
It does me too, man. It does me too.
Robin Grogan says, looking into my living room, I have to say, okay, in the name of Jesus Christ, continue to leave my camper, leave my animals, and leave myself alone. I don't blame you. When it comes to stuff like that, yeah, you can't have too much protection. And a good firearm is good something to keep on hand because, as the old expression says, the good Lord helps those who help themselves.
Yep.
I might go to meet my maker, but I'm going to smell like cordite when I get there.
It ain't going to be no easy win.
Yep.
For sure.
And he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant.
That's right.
Exactly.
So what happened out there on that night on the Navajo reservation is the kind of encounter that forces you to rethink what a predator is capable of. When something can keep pace with a patrol cruiser, when it can strike with that kind of speed and confidence, you're not dealing with folklore. You're dealing with biology we haven't classified yet. But that kind of raw physical presence isn't just limited to the desert of the Southwest. Sometimes it shows up in the deep timber. Sometimes it watches from the tree line, and sometimes it stands upright. Our next case takes us to the humid backwoods of Tennessee, where a logging crew working near a paper mill found themselves stalked by something that walked like a man, but moved like a wolf. Robbie, you want to take the next segment?
Absolutely. The Paper Mill Watcher. The source is Tennessee logging crew from the 1990s. Witnesses a logging crew and heavy equipment operators and cryptid type upright canid Dogman. The paper mill sat at the end of a long, winding service road surrounded by dense hardwood forest that swallowed the daylight even at noon. The logging crew had been working the track for weeks, cutting and hauling timber to feed the mill's endless appetite. It was grueling work: chainsaws, loaders, skidders, diesel fumes, and the constant hum of machinery. But in the fall of 94, something else was out there. Something watching. It started with a feeling of being observed. Men stepping off equipment would glance toward the tree line, certain they'd seen movement, a shadow slipping between trunks, a shape too tall to be a deer, too broad to be a coyote. Nobody said anything at first. Loggers don't spook easy. Then came the growls, low, deep, resonant enough to vibrate the chest. One afternoon, as the sun dipped behind a ridge, the crew foreman, Rick Dalton, was checking fuel levels on the loader when he heard it, a rumbling growl from the brush behind him. He turned, expecting to see a black bear. What he saw wasn't a bear. It stood upright. It was tall, at least 7 feet. Shoulders were hunched forward, arms long enough to hang past its waist, and a head shaped unmistakably like a wolf's. The creature stared at him from between two oaks, its eyes reflecting a dull amber. Its breast steamed in the cool air. Its lips curled back, revealing long, yellowed canines. Dalton froze. The creature took a slow step forward, and then another. Dalton backed towards the loader, never breaking eye contact. The creature Hang on, my phone. The creature stared at him from between the two oaks, eyes reflecting a dull. I'm sorry, my phone went crazy. You start
That
worrying.
happens.
He stepped back towards the loader, never breaking eye contact. The creature matched him step for step, closing the distance with deliberate predatory calm. When Dalton reached the cab, he climbed in fast and slammed the door. The creature lunged, not at him, but at the loader's tire, raking long claw marks against the rubber. The machine rocked under the impact. That's something if it rocked a skid steer.
Woo!
Dalton fired the engine up, revving it hard. The roar echoed through the clearing. The creature backed off, but it didn't run. It just watched. That night, the crew stayed late to finish a haul. Okay. The forest grew darker, thicker, heavier. The men worked fast, wanting to get out of there before full dark. But the creature returned. This time, multiple men saw it, standing at the edge of the landing, half lit by the loader's work lights. It paced back and forth, head low, shoulders rolling like a predator preparing to strike. One of the sawyers shouted, "What the hell is that thing?" No one answered. The creature let out a growl so deep it rattled the metal siding of the fuel trailer. It stepped forward into the light. The men scrambled into their trucks and equipment. Engines roared to life. Headlights cut through the dark. The creature flinched but didn't retreat. It circled the landing, moving with unnatural speed for something so large. At one point, it dropped to all fours, sprinting around the perimeter before rising upright again. Dalton radioed the mill security office, voice shaking. "We've got something out here. Not a bear, not a man, something else." By the time the security arrived, the creature was gone, but the tracks remained. Massive canine-shaped prints, but longer, with an elongated midfoot and claws that dug deep into the clay. The stride length was nearly double that of a wolf. The next morning, half the crew refused to return to the site. Dalton did, and when he reached the landing, he found fresh prints circling the loader. It's as if the creature had spent the night walking around it, waiting.
Yeah, it's got to hit with a hell of a lot of force to rattle a skid steer.
You ain't wrong, dude.
That's a heavy piece of equipment.
Good night.
With a stride length twice that of a wolf,
That's big.
that's a big unit.
It's a big unit.
And the tracks and the claw marks, everything seems to be very similar to the other story, and also something I picked up. It was what was it doing and how was it behaving around them?
Very aggressively.
And it was circling. Remember, he said, and that's exactly what happened in the other one. I was like, that's crazy, man. That is something.
That to me, that when you start noticing the patterns in these stories, that's to me that is the real takeaway from this, because then we can start looking for these patterns with our own experiences and in other stories. It allows us to start to build a well, just like we would in law enforcement, trying to build a profile of what it is we're after.
Yeah, I can't get over the fact that it shook or moved the skid steer. I mean,
that's a unit right there, dude. If it can move a skid steer, how strong is that?
That means it hit with a lot of force.
Yeah.
If I may be off, but I'm thinking those things are like 11,000 pounds or more, especially full of fuel.
Well, and something else, the fact that those dudes stayed there for the haul, I think I'd have been, the only thing when I would have been hauling that night would have been butt, not wood.
Yeah.
I'd have got the heck out of Dodge, man. Good night. That's terrifying. Seriously.
That means, if it can shake a skid steer like that, if it had hit a person, they wouldn't have stood a chance.
No. It would have caved their chest in, dude.
No, if that
broke bones.
If that guy had been in between him, if he hadn't got inside the loader and he'd been in between him or been in between it and the loader, when it hit, he'd have been a greasy spot on the side of the loader.
Yes, it would have smushed him.
Look at Lone Queen's comment. It seems it went to all fours to run faster. That lines up with a lot of other stories. And it knew the tires should be the weakest point on the machine. Like maybe it had done it before.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is a good point. And that may have been what it was going for on the Navajo officer's car. If it hit him in the quarter panel, it might have been trying to get the tire.
That's a good point, too. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a really good point. Because maybe they know these are the weak points on these machines.
Well, I mean, think about dogs when they're chasing cars. They go for the tire. So if a dog knows that to go for the tire, you would think something like this is probably far more intelligent than a dog could figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably somewhere between. Well, dogs are smart, but somewhere between a dog and a human.
Yeah. That's for sure. Dun dun dun.
PW says render the target immobile. Yeah.
Yep. Makes sense.
If it could disable the vehicle, now he's just got to figure out how to get it out of the wrapper, so to speak.
Well, I mean, if it can move a skid steer, I'm sure it could use its claws to bust window glass.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully, it ain't figured out that it can move it, that it can probably peel that door off the hinges.
Yeah.
Probably. So, do you think that was predatory behavior or territorial behavior?
Could have been both.
Yeah.
But it was extremely aggressive, so that
and it didn't care that there was a bunch of them either.
Right. I mean, it growled. Okay, growling and without acting, I think that's territorial, right?
Yeah.
But it growled. Then
but it acted too.
Right, it acted too. So there shows predatory. I mean, because it, like you said, DA, it didn't care that there was a whole crew there. So
was not intimidated in the slightest.
No.
And, this story here is one of the earliest of a Dogman type encounter from a full logging crew. I mean, usually, most Dogman stories get one, possibly two eyewitnesses, but an entire logging crew that's saying the same thing. Yeah, they saw something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't believe they all stayed there.
Yeah, I can't believe he went back.
That's some big old cojones right there. Yeah, dude.
We're like, I think it's time I pursued a new career.
I don't think I'm going to be logging this area. Y'all can get somebody else out here.
The only log you're going to see from me from now on is the one I'm shaking out of my pant leg as I get out of here.
Yeah, that's a fact, dude. That's terrifying.
That was definitely a brown pants moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was in Tennessee. So similar type creature, not in the Four Corners area. That's probably 1,500, 1,600 miles away, if not further.
Yeah, probably further. I mean, the Four Corners area from me is probably 13, 14 hours.
Yeah, because it's from here, let's just say from the Four Corners area to Mississippi, it's about 1,400 miles. So to like central Mississippi where I grew up. So, yeah, that's about a 15, 16-hour drive.
Yeah.
Actually, that's about a 19-hour drive because I've driven it. It's a long drive.
Northwood says one of the earliest Dogman reports in Michigan in the 1800s involved loggers. Northwoods, if you know where that encounter report is, could you send it to me? I'd love to read that.
I heard some guys in class. I go up to this area north of Grand Rapids called Luther, Michigan, Chase, Michigan, and there's all kinds of stories up there about Dogman up in that area.
Well, you know what I wonder about this story is I wonder how close this was to Werewolf Springs, which is in Dixon County, Tennessee. Because
it doesn't say exactly where this was, just that it was in Tennessee.
That's just a curiosity, because think about how aggressive most of the stories about that one we read are.
Although we could probably narrow this one down by searching how many paper mills are in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If there's only one or two, we could probably figure out which area it was.
And if there's one close to Dixon County, I would say that might be the one.
That's interesting. That'd be cool to triangulate that.
You know what? I am going to consult the Googles. So give me just a second.
Northwoods says the area Doc just mentioned is close to where I'm talking about. Okay, so some of the guys in my class that had been in that live in that area were talking about that. So,
there are several. But here's something interesting. There's one, actually there's several right here. But there's like 3 or 4 right here just south of LBL.
Well, there you go.
Okay, so
which would put them near you, which would also put them near Werewolf Springs.
He said, I wonder if the logger encounter was near the LBL, that would explain aggressive behavior. In 1994, there were literally tens of thousands of acres of timber company land near the south entrance of the LBL.
Well, there's at least 4 to 5 paper mills within a short drive of the south end of LBL.
Wow. Huh.
Things that make you go,
Yeah. What are you doing to me?
I especially like this one because of the multiple witnesses and the physical evidence left behind.
Yeah. Like, the tracks circling the skid steer.
Yeah, and the fact that it was willing to approach and even attack heavy equipment was kind of chilling.
Right.
That's what I was about to say. It seemed like it was fixated on that skid steer for some reason too.
It
which
did not
may have saved that guy's life. Maybe it is. They were logging. They said they'd been logging. Maybe it associated that with tearing down some of its home habitat.
That's a good point.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
It's a very
That's why it was so fixated and hyper aggressive towards that.
It's like, hey man, you're ripping out my hunting ground.
Yeah.
You're making my food run that way. That's a really good point, Robbie.
So if you guys were working on a logging crew, what would be your reaction to something like that?
Well,
look at the time.
As Ray Stevens once sang, I wouldn't be saying, well, I'm a logger.
Just up from Coons Bay.
Yeah.
I'd be changing the lyrics to I'm a jogger.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Exactly. I dang sure wouldn't be staying around to finish the freaking load. That's for sure.
You ever seen anybody drift a skid steer? Doc probably could do it.
I'm sure he probably could.
I give it the old college try. Me and my Sioux City sarsaparilla here. So
I've never seen anybody get a skid steer up on 2 wheels before.
That's just Doc showing out.
I've seen people get them up on 2 wheels before, but not on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a forklift up on 2 wheels, but not on purpose. That was a bit of a butt puckering moment.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah,
because I about went over with a full load on it.
I've done it too. Pulling a big load of lumber off the side of a truck, and it was a little too heavy for that loader. Yeah. As soon as that backed off the truck, that thing said, whoop. I said, oh. Bad Rick.
I took a corner too sharp, and mine went up on 2 wheels like that. And when it hit, I stopped. When it dropped back down on all fours, I stopped, but yeah, shut the engine off and just sit there and just shook for about 5 minutes. It went far enough that my life was flashing before my eyes for a few seconds.
That is a definite brown pants moment right there, dude.
Yeah. Boys, we got 10 minutes until we've got to take our first commercial break. Do you guys want to talk some more about this one, or do you want to start leading into the third segment?
Let's move into the third one, man.
You want me to read the segue into the third one for you?
Yeah, please.
All right. Encounters like the Tennessee paper mill case force you to rethink what's actually sharing the woods with us. I said sharing in the woods. I'm like, what? We're sharing in the woods. Sharing is caring. When a creature can stand upright, stalk a work site, and show no fear of heavy machinery, You're dealing with something that sees humans not as a threat, but as competition. But the South isn't the only place where logging crews have been pushed to the edge. In the 1970s, deep in the boreal forests of Alberta, a remote logging camp found itself visited night after night by something massive, something that walked on two legs, something that circled the bunkhouses with deliberate predatory patience. This next case is one of the most unnerving Bigfoot type encounters ever reported by a professional logging crew. This is segment 3.
And we'll tell the story on this one, and then we'll take a quick break for commercials. But as soon as we come back, we'll start discussing this one. So kind of bear with us. So this is the Night Walker of Alberta from the 1970s, logging camp, a Bigfoot type creature. The boreal forest of northern Alberta stretches for hundreds of miles, dense, cold, and quiet in a way that feels ancient. In the winter of 1978, a logging crew working far from the nearest town set up a temporary camp. It was just a cluster of bunkhouses, a cook shack, and a fuel trailer surrounded by just pretty much endless black timber. The men were used to isolation. They were not used to what came next. It started with footsteps, heavy ones. Late at night, long after the generators had been shut down and the camp fell silent, something walked between the bunkhouses. Slow, deliberate, each step thudding into the frozen ground with a weight no human could match. At first, the men thought it was a bear. But bears don't walk in circles around buildings, and they don't pace. Night after night, the footsteps returned, moving around the camp in wide loops, sometimes stopping just outside a bunkhouse door. The men would lie awake, listening to the boards creak under the weight of something massive. Then came the slaps. One night, just after midnight, a worker named Harris was jolted awake by the thunderous impact of something striking the side of his bunkhouse. The wall shook, dust drifted down from the rafters. Something outside let out a low, rumbling exhale, too deep for a bear and too resonant for a moose. Harris grabbed his boots and stepped outside with a flashlight. The beam caught nothing but trees. The footsteps were already moving away, long, heavy strides fading into the darkness. The next morning, the men found prints in the snow, 17 inches long, 7 inches wide, a stride of nearly 4 feet. Too big to be a man, too long for a bear, too clean and identified for anything but a biped. The foreman told the men to keep working. Tracks don't cut timber, he said, but the Nightwalker wasn't done. A week later, just before dawn, a worker named McAllister stepped outside to take a leak. The air was bitter cold, the sky was still black. As he walked toward the edge of the camp, he heard breathing, slow, heavy, and rhythmic. He turned toward it. There was a silhouette standing between him and the trees. Tall, broad, completely motionless. McAllister froze. The creature didn't move, it just watched him, its outline barely visible against the dark timber. Then, with a single step, it shifted its weight, and the snow beneath it compressed with a deep, resonant crunch. McAllister bolted back to the bunkhouse, slamming the door behind him. By sunrise, he'd packed his gear. He pulled a dock. He refused to stay another night. The foreman tried to convince him otherwise, but McAllister wouldn't budge. Something out there walks like a man, he said, but it ain't one. That night, the creature returned. It circled the camp again, footsteps slow and steady. At one point, it stepped outside of the cook shack and let out a long. It stopped outside of the cook shack and let out a long, low moan, so deep the windows vibrated. The next morning, there were more tracks. This time, they circled the fuel trailer, as if the creature had spent the night inspecting the camp's lifeline. Within a week, half the crew had requested reassignment. The company shut the camp down early, and the Nightwalker returned to the forest, leaving behind only its prints and breath in the dark and a memory of something massive pacing the edge of the human territory. Yep, I'm right there with that first dude. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I think McDonald's has some openings. I'm going to go flip burgers.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd be staying around there at all. Dude, what are you doing? Stop. You're not a beaver. Stop gnawing on that wood, goofball. Yeah, I mean, the the tracks. Those tracks are huge, dude.
Oh yeah, 17-inch track. That's a big old track.
And 7 inches wide. I mean, that's sucker. That's sucker.
A big youngin'.
That's a big young.
That's all. That's this and some more.
Yeah, that's a big old track right there.
I think unfolded, it's like 9 inches, so it's like that.
I mean, the fact that half the crew left. I mean, come on, man. I would, hey, can I go somewhere where there's not something making big footprints like that?
There are any openings in the logging crew and say Venezuela?
Yeah, exactly, man.
It's like they needed loggers in the middle of the city.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is look. This is my hand. There's my hand right here. That's 7 inches wide right there.
Yeah.
And then that's 17 right there. I mean, bro, if I saw something like that around my workplace, it would no longer be my workplace. That's all I got to say about that. That's all I got to say about that.
That's all he got to say about that.
I was running. I would be getting the heck out of Dodge for sure.
Well, with a track that big and the stride length, we can immediately rule out a bear.
Oh yeah,
absolutely rule out a bear.
Yeah,
and the way that was described is bipedal, not quadrupedal.
Right.
So, Robbie, you're a track guy. What would you estimate the weight on something like that on frozen ground?
Now, snow's a little bit harder to judge because it compacts and compresses differently than soil, but still, to press it in like that, you probably well over 1,000 pounds, I would say.
That'd be a big animal.
Yeah, it would be a big animal.
Isn't there like a rule that says the bigger something gets, the more dense it becomes?
Yeah, usually. Usually, well, like that's why you find the biggest animals, for the most part, the biggest animals on the planet are in the water because they can get really big because the water supports them. Mm-hmm. But when you start looking at things like elephants, their bone structure and bone density and musculature is a lot different because it supports that weight. Just like that, I've used this example before. You can have a gorilla, a silverback gorilla, can stand 5 feet on when it stands upright, but still weigh 800 pounds because of the muscularity and the bone density. It can carry that type of weight. Because I've had arguments with people before. They're like, well, they can't be that heavy and be that tall but if they are primates and they have that same bone density and musculature, they absolutely can carry that type of weight, and they have to carry that type of weight if they're as strong as all these reports that we've got coming in of lifting up 450-pound barrels of diesel fuel and tossing them.
And and they're fast too. And so, I mean, so you got to have that framework and that to support that musculature, which gives you that strength and that speed.
It's like, take Shaquille O'Neal, 7'2", I think. Tall guy, muscular guy, but Shaquille O'Neal does not have the strength to pick up a 450-pound, fuel drum. So for something to be as big as it is, and the feats of strength that we're picking up trees and with the root ball still attached and jamming them into the ground, that takes strength. That's not just because they're big. That's because they're big and they're strong. Look at
boys. We got to take a pause to pay the bills. Unfortunately. We'll pick this up as soon as we get back. So, folks, this has been a great time to top off your coffee, stretch your legs, hit the bathroom, grab an extra blanket, and bear with us, and we will be right back after we have a few messages from our sponsors.
The Unex Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unex Network website at unexnetwork.com. That's unexnetwork.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
In a world where monsters still walk the earth, one author dares to face them. From the brutal cryptid horror of the Apex Predator series to the Ozark legends that stalk the night in Lakeview Man, from the elite warriors of codename Wild Hunt to the relentless investigations of the Nightmare Hunter and the frontier terror of Dark Frontiers. When the Dead Rise, the Ragnarok Rising saga unleashes pure zombie apocalypse fury. And across the stars, war rages in the Lost Legion and Man's Marauders. And in the realm of myth and steel, the world of Vanguard calls to those born for legend. Cryptids, zombies, sci-fi warfare, epic fantasy. This is the universe of D.A. Roberts.
And we are back. Thank you all for sticking with us. We're going to jump right back into this. Robbie, you were saying something as we had to tail off into that. You want to pick up your thought?
I don't know if I can reach it because I don't rightly remember exactly where it was at. What
You're talking about muscle and frame density, bone density, muscle mass, things like that. How these things are moving.
You know, it's you can't say these things have incredible amounts of strength if they don't have the musculature and the bone density to handle it. You know, so you have to accept that they have that. And the reason they have that is because of, you know, what they are. And to be that big and have that kind of weight behind them, that means they have to have that same type of bone density and musculature. Because if they're just big and tall and they don't have that kind of weight, they're not going to leave those kind of impressions that they leave. DA, exactly. You know that for a fact because you saw a print deep in rocky soil that you couldn't even make a dent in.
Yeah, I barely even disturbed the soil.
for something to leave that kind of print in that kind of soil, it has to have a massive amount of weight. And for it to have that massive amount of weight, it has to have that Doc. Am I wrong? It has to have that kind of
Absolutely. Come on.
that kind of musculature and bone density to acquire that. So that's where I was going with that.
Like, you know, the way this thing was pacing, definitely territorial. It didn't like the fact that camp was out there in the middle of nowhere. I think it was wanting to make itself known. And slapping, that happened to us in Tennessee too. Scared the crap out of a net.
Well, Greg's had that happen to him plenty of times in his man cave.
Slapping the side of the house or the big propane tank out there.
Yep. He said it rang like a church bell.
And it didn't. And the vocalization, the vocalization of it, you know, they said had that deep resonant growl that made the windows vibrate. What's that? Well, it's like that infrasound we keep talking about.
Right. And them saying they could hear it breathing outside the door to the bunkhouse with the wood straining from the weight.
Right.
And maybe this is another, because we've heard these encounters before where you feel like it's trying to, you know, they're out there logging, they're destroying its home territory.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's intentionally trying to run them out. Maybe that's why it's not going any further than doing the stuff it's doing, just trying to spook them.
Yeah.
And
here's a question for you boys. It was investigating the fuel trailer. Was it just curious, or did it understand that fuel trailer was vital?
Well, what did it do in 1957?
Threw the fuel barrels down the It threw the fuel down the mountainside.
Yeah.
Do you think that was an accident, or it realized without these they can't make those other things growl anymore?
It probably did some correlation. It was like, hey, if they don't have this, they can't run that, which means they get the heck out of Dodge.
Well, I mean, observe, orient, decide, and act.
Yep.
Oodaloo.
If they're sitting back and watching, they watch them things run, and they watch them stop, and then they watch them go over and pour stuff out of this big blue barrel into that thing, and then they crank it back up, and it runs so long, and then they have to, you know, if this thing's got intelligence.
Everybody in chat saying it too. They're smart as hell. They can smell the fuel needed to run the machines. Cole says they watch them fuel it a few times, multiple times, and they got it figured out because these are sentient creatures. These cats are smart, dude.
That's what I was about to say. If they're half as smart as we speculate they are, they can put two and two together. If we know that certain ones use tools,
right?
We know for a fact that chimpanzees and gorillas use tools,
right?
Well, they recognize.
You know, how many words did Coco? How big was her vocabulary?
It was a bunch of words. She had a big vocabulary.
Yeah.
I know it was well over 250 words, wasn't it? Or probably more, but at least it was over that.
And they recognize patterns. They learn through patterns and things like that. Thank you, Dr. Sharp.
Thank you, Dr. Sharp.
Thanks, Doc. So if the known primates that we already study can do this kind of stuff.
Robbie, you were a little shy. Coco the gorilla learned to use well over 1,000 signs from a modified ASL and understood approximately 2,000 words of spoken English.
Wow. Dang.
Well, I'd rather estimate low and it'd be a lot higher than estimate high and be a lot lower.
You're just a touch low, but if it understood 2,000 words, that's a conversation.
That is absolutely, man. That's wow.
Well, watched the documentary on her after her kitten died, and she wouldn't until Robin Williams came in.
Yep.
And started having a conversation with her. She did not perk up.
She was inconsolable.
They even tried to give her another kitten that looked exactly like the one that got run over, and she knew that was not hers.
Yeah, because she told Robin Williams in sign language that she was sad.
Yep.
So that's not just it learning language. That's it conveying emotion.
Correct. Which shows sentience.
Yeah, exactly.
What do we always say? All we have to do is look at the known universe that we already know, and some of these questions, maybe all of them, if we just look hard enough, can be answered, or at least we can get a starting point to answer them.
Right.
I agree with Lone Queen. I don't think they may have necessarily understood what the fuel did, but they realized there was something important about the fuel trailer and those fuel barrels. Whatever it was, they needed them, and if it got rid of them,
yeah, I don't think they understood the internal combustion engine.
Right.
Yeah, knew that it needed the fuel to fire the spark plug to push the piston to the top of the rod to spin the crankshaft. I don't think they did that, but I think they figured out, hey, that thing moves for a certain amount of time until it can't move. Then they have to put more of this stuff in it to get it to move again. So if I get rid of this stuff, it can only run so long, or it can only be alive, or however they look at it, so long.
So yeah, I think it certainly had the consciousness to realize the importance of that fuel trailer. It may not have grasped exactly what it did, but it realized it was important. And to me, that is way above the intelligence of like a bear or a mountain lion, because they would just come pace through the camp and either look for food or just keep moving, but they would not have went over to each individual thing, inspecting it, trying to figure out what it was.
Isn't that cool?
Boondock Mojo, have you heard the theory they can manipulate their density? I hadn't heard that one. But again, much like some of the other stuff like portals and things like that, it doesn't exist anywhere else in the animal kingdom. So I'm from Missouri. You'd have to show me.
Show me, state.
That's right. Northwood says if it understands an engine, it's only a matter of time until there's a Dogman team in the NASCAR race.
Booger Jackson wedge into it, and she run like a spotted butt Sasquatch after that.
So, I pretty much think this entire story was all about making a statement. You need to go.
Yeah, I think this was territorial.
You are not wanted here.
I agree.
Can you imagine hearing that pace around with nobody around but just the people there in your camp? Had to have been a lot like how those poor guys felt at Snell Grove Lake when that thing was pacing around that little cabin.
No.
Or at Ape Canyon.
Or at Ape Canyon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
I think the pacing would, and hearing it walk around the boards would be, but having it stop and breathing outside the door, and you just sitting there hearing it and knowing, okay, I know what a moose sounds like when it snorts. I know what a bear sounds like when it huffs, and that ain't either one of those. That would be scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Cole says, well, these creatures are known to turn a doorknob and rub up against tips and the zippers. Yeah, they're definitely smart enough to figure it out.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have been going outside taking a whiz either. I'd have been peeing in a bottle inside.
That's Lieutenant Jenkins right there. Definitely time to choose a new career.
That's your fact.
I'm right there with you, LT.
That is fact.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much clear as day that thing was just studying them. Wanting to make a statement like, you are in my backyard, you need to pack up your toys and go home. The Alberta Nightwalker is one of those encounters that sticks with you, not because of what it did, but because of what it chose not to do. A creature that size with that kind of mass and confidence, it could have torn through that camp if it wanted to. Instead, it just paced. It watched. It tested the perimeter like a sentry evaluating a threat. And that behavior, that quiet, deliberate surveillance, shows up again and again in wilderness encounters, especially when a human is alone, and especially when there's nowhere to run. Our next case takes us deep into the boundary waters of Minnesota. Doc, you've been up that way, where a forest ranger stationed at a remote cabin found himself stalked by something that moved with intelligence and patience. Doc, do you want to tell us about the cabin visitor?
Absolutely. So this was up at the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness in Minnesota. The witness was a forest ranger, and the cryptid was an unknown upright predator. The Boundary Waters are a maze of lakes and islands and dense northern forest. It's a beautiful place where the silence feels alive and the nights stretch on forever. Rangers assigned to the area often spend weeks alone in remote cabins, checking portages, monitoring wildlife, and keeping an eye on the endless miles of wilderness. Now, in the fall of 1987, Ranger Tom Ellison was stationed at one such cabin. It was a small weathered structure perched on the edge of a lake, so still that it looked like it reflected the stars like glass. His first week was uneventful, but his second week was not. It started with a feeling of being watched. He would step outside at dusk to bring in firewood and feel eyes on him. He would get that prickling sensation at the back of his neck. It's the kind that made him turn around slowly, expecting to see someone standing just beyond the tree line. But there was never anyone there. Then came noises. Late at night, long after the fire died down, Ellison would hear movement outside the cabin. Not the light, quick steps of a deer, not the padding of wolves. These were heavy, deliberate footfalls. Slow, measured, and bipedal. One night, just after midnight, something brushed against the cabin wall. It was a long, dragging scrape, like a hand or a claw running. Sorry, out of my lap. Oh, dude, just wait. You don't roll out of my lap. It's not like a claw or a hand running across the wooden siding. Ellison sat up in his bed. His heart was pounding. The scraping came again, and then a soft thud, then breathing deep and slow and right outside his window. And so he reached for his flashlight, clicked it on, and swept the beam across the room. The window was a black square reflecting nothing but the faint glow of the dying fire. Then something moved outside. It was a shadow passing across the window, tall enough that its upper body filled the frame. Ellison froze. The silhouette paused, turned, and leaned in closer. For a moment, he saw the faintest suggestion of a face, broad and heavy-browed, with eyes reflecting a dull amber in the darkness. And then it stepped away. Ellison waited until dawn before opening the door. The ground outside the cabin was covered in frost except for the footprints. Large, human-shaped, but far too big, each one melted slightly into the frozen earth. They circled the cabin and paused at the window, then stopped at the door, as if the creature had been deciding whether or not to come inside. That night, Ellison barricaded the door with a table and kept the fire burning, but the visitor returned. Just after 2 a.m., something pressed against the door, a slow, steady pressure that made the hinges drone. The table shifted an inch and then another. He grabbed his radio, voice shaking as he called it in. Something's outside the cabin, something big. The dispatcher asked if it was a bear. No, Ellison whispered, it's standing. The pressure on the door increased, and the wood creaked. The table slid another inch. Then, just as suddenly, the pressure stopped, and there was silence. Ellison didn't sleep the rest of the night. At the first light, he stepped outside again. The footprints were fresh, deeper this time, as if the creature had been bracing itself against the door, and they led back into the trees and vanished among the pines. Ellison requested immediate extraction, and he never returned to that cabin, and the ranger who replaced him reported hearing footsteps on his very first night. Whoa. Yeah.
Those remote cabins like that, they're very remote. I mean, you were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's some dense forest up there too, man.
I think I would have been rebuilding a lock bar to drop in place at the top and the bottom of the door, maybe even in the middle.
Yeah, I was going to say top, bottom, and middle. For sure.
Plus, put those big iron bolts in the top and the bottom of the door.
That's I mean, the way that thing stood up and then looked down.
Be calling in and arranging for an airdrop for a welder and some heavy gauge steel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if that was my cabin, I'd have more locks than a Bronx apartment.
Yeah, dude, that thing was, the pacing around is one thing, the touching the side of the cabin's another. The looking in the window, but man, that standing in front of the door and pushing in the door.
Forest rangers are pretty unshakable dudes too.
Yeah.
Those guys do spend a lot of time alone out in the wilderness, and for it to shake one of them up like that.
Yeah. I mean, that took it to that really, honestly, I think that right there, when it pushed on the door, that really escalated the things, because he was like, you know what? If this thing really had wanted in, it could have gotten in.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, and we don't know how many stories that are out there that don't get told because of there's nobody to tell the story. But the ones we get like this, it's like, how many times do we say that if they'd wanted to do something, they could have?
right.
Oh yeah. He definitely got the strength to have done it.
Yeah.
So do you think this was aggressive, or is just like a scare tactic to get him to leave?
It seems more curiosity to me, like what's in there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
Like checking through the windows, like it's peeking through the window, like,
Yeah, because it reminds me of, especially that part reminds me of my encounter.
mm-hmm.
And, DA asked me several times, do you think it meant you any harm? When I was a kid, I would have said, yeah, absolutely. But now, knowing the things I know, if that thing had wanted to get in there and get me,
Yeah.
It
would have reached through that window and snatched your little butt out.
Yeah. Y'all wouldn't have had to look at this ugly face, because it would have been.
They see Robbie's feet going out the window.
It had been on a milk carton, Robbie.
For sure, man.
Yep.
Well, and Mondoc, that's a great point too, man. It's not like the cabin was a new feature to the area.
But he was.
Yeah, his scent was different though.
Right. He knew the cabin was there, but there was something different inside that cabin. Like y'all just said.
Yep. And
great point, dude.
Then he knew that there was a different person the very first night it was in there, because he got.
I got it. It was just a Bigfoot Avon lady trying to sell him some Avon.
Or Bigfoot Jehovah's Witness.
Or that.
Mongolite candy. Man. Yeah, Darcy. I feel like Darcy's Den said, I feel like it was pranking them because it could tell how easily it was shaking them up. It may have been going into his buddies in the woods going, hey, y'all watch this crap. How often have you been told that if you are afraid of a dog, it can smell it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're afraid of an animal, it's going to know.
Absolutely.
So maybe it was doing it just to see if they could make him pee his pants.
Yeah, maybe so. But either way, it had the desired results, because it got out of there, and this thing was obviously very tall, since it had to peep down and look through the window. I mean, if the chest and upper body is above the window, I mean, dang, dude.
It goes back to the free, scratches another line across there, and goes. Mark said, "Run another one off. Run another one off."
Yeah.
Well, if it scared him enough that he left, and the next ranger that came out there reported footsteps on the first night, I don't think the guy that left was the first time that had happened.
No, that's why I said he's going back here and marking the tick marks off on the tree. There's 5.
Yep.
3 more and I get my prize.
Running off rangers like S&H green stamps.
Maybe they have jobs just like we do. And that Bigfoot's particular job was to run rangers off in that location. And, if he runs so many off, he gets employee of the month.
Yeah. As long as he's wearing the correct amount of flare.
Right.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I like hearing it when they're not aggressive like that. It was just basically like, hey, dude, I'm here. I know you're there. I don't want you here.
Right. Bigfoot walking through the woods with a bandolier like Chewbacca, but it's all ranger badges.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and Angela Monroe says, so are the windows like a TV screen? Yeah, kind of like the one the dude was up in Alaska.
Like we said, maybe we're their zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Boys, I got to step away for just a minute. My diuretic is getting with me. I will be right back.
Sure.
But I mean, I said that as a joke the other night, but if you stop and think about it, as many times as we get reports of them looking in windows.
Yeah, that seems like a common trait with them, man. So
yeah, curiosity.
I don't take it as aggression. I take it as a curiosity type thing, because they may be just as curious about us as we are about them.
Yeah. Oh, I think they 100% are, because if it was the other way around, we'd have way more reports of them reaching in through windows trying to grab people.
Absolutely, because they're obviously he was just pushing against the door. I mean, he could have, all he had to do really was go pop like that, and that door would have probably flung open. As strong as those things are. I mean, dude, if that thing's over 1,000 pounds and over 8 feet tall,
I mean, really, all he'd have to do is just kind of lean on the door.
Yeah, exactly. That door would be kindling, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There are aggression acts that we read about, and that stuff happens. But I think, by and large, the biggest reports that we get are either territorial or curiosity.
Yeah. Dr. Sharp Rothstein says, what else is there to do except scare the rangers? And that's true, man. Yeah. I like Mary Lee's spooky grandma. She said, ours is like an oven window. Is it done yet? That's true. But I agree, Robbie. I agree. I mean, yeah, because Fred obviously had a very aggressive encounter up there in Alaska. And but for the most part, you hear a lot of curiosity behavior, just like observing, just like getting in, like they're gathering intel on something. Yeah. So, yeah, it seems more just a curiosity thing to me.
Yeah, I think by and large, that's what a lot of them are. Probably mixed with some territorial stuff, like the Alberta one we just read. That was definitely, in my opinion, territorial. But I think we would, and I say this, with a grain of salt, because if they do get somebody, then we wouldn't have got the report. But I think we would have a whole lot more reports of them actually trying to get in if it was strictly predatory or they were, aggressive. I think a lot of it's curiosity or territory, like, get out of my territory, or, hey, what are you doing in there?
Right.
I see you.
Right.
Tap, 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 tap.
Exactly.
It makes change the channel motion, like,
yeah.
Time for Oprah. Change channel.
Do you think when the Bigfoot tour guide gives them do you think he says, don't tap on the window, you'll scare the exhibits?
And we're walking.
Exactly.
Behind me, you will see the ranger cabin. Do not tap on the glass. You will scare the ranger. And he'll run away. We'll have to get another one. We'll have to train him all over again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's new. Don't run him off.
Yeah, we like this one.
Yeah, exactly.
But encounters like the Boundary Waters cabin case remind us that sometimes the most terrifying thing in the wilderness isn't the moment you see the creature, it's the long stretch of hours when you know it's out there, you just beyond the lantern light, circling, listening, and waiting. But not every creature stays silent. Some of them announce themselves long before they're ever seen. Some of them shake the valleys with the voice that doesn't match any known animal. And some of them leave rangers wondering if the forest itself is screaming at them. Our next case takes us to Yosemite National Park, where decades of ranger reports describe a sound so deep and so powerful and so unnatural that it echoes through granite walls like something ancient waking up. This next segment is the Night Screamer of Yosemite. And whose is this one? I think this one's Robbie's.
Yep. The source is Yosemite National Park. Multiple ranger reports. Witness type or forest rangers. Cryptid type, unknown large bipedal, possibly Bigfoot. The granite cliffs of Yosemite rise like cathedral walls, trapping sound in a way that amplifies even the smallest noise. A twig snap can echo for seconds. A distant owl can sound like it's perched on your shoulder. what excuse me, what Ranger Alex Marino heard in the summer of 1992 wasn't an echo. It was a warning. Marino was on his solo backcountry patrol near Tenya Canyon, a place locals quietly call the Bermuda Triangle of Yosemite. The terrain was rugged, the trails narrow, and the nights colder than they had any right to be in July. Just after midnight, he sat by a small campfire writing notes in his logbook as the forest went silent. Not quiet, but silent. No insects, no wind, no distant water, just suffocating stillness that made the hair on his arms rise. Then it came, a scream, not human, not animal, but something in between, a deep, guttural roar that rose into a high, piercing wail. It echoed off the canyon walls, rolling through the trees like a physical force. Marino froze, pen dropping from his hand. The scream came again, closer this time, then again, even closer. He grabbed his flashlight and swept it across the tree line. Nothing but the sound was moving, traveling fast as if something massive was pacing the ridge above him. The third scream tore through the night so loud it rattled a metal cup beside the fire. Marino backed towards his tent, heart hammering. He had heard mountain lions, he'd heard bears, he'd even heard the strange, almost human cries of foxes. This was none of those. This was bigger, deeper, and older. He radioed dispatch. Possible injured animal, he said, though he didn't believe it. Sounded like a large predator. Before dispatch could respond, something crashed through the brush behind him. Heavy footsteps, bipedal, moving with purpose. Marino spun, flashlight beam slicing through the dark. For a split second, he saw it. A silhouette standing between two pines, broad-shouldered, long arms, head nearly brushing the lower branches. The creature didn't move, didn't flinch. It just stood there, chest rising and falling with a slow, deliberate breath. Then it screamed again. The sound hit Marino like a shockwave vibrating through his ribs. He stumbled backwards, dropping the flashlight. When he scrambled to pick it up, the creature was gone. But the footsteps weren't. They moved around his camp in a wide circle, slow, heavy, and methodical. Marino stood frozen, listening to the creature as it just paced beyond the firelight, each step deliberate as if it had been studying him. After 10 agonizing minutes, the footsteps faded into the trees. The forest remained silent until dawn. When Marino broke camp next morning, he found tracks along the ridge, large, human-shaped, but far too big, spaced far too wide apart. The soil was compressed deep as if something weighing several hundred pounds had walked there. He reported the encounter to his supervisor. The supervisor didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. He simply nodded and said, "You're not the first." Well, that's comforting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks, boss.
so you sent me out there anyway?
Yeah, so
Thanks, boss.
thanks for the info. You could have warned me.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up there, boss. I love you too.
Yeah. Jackwagon.
I won't be voting for you for supervisor of the month.
Well, and what's so funny about this one is it has a lot of the Ape Canyon stuff because it's up on a ridge, right?
Yep.
Probably a good thing he didn't take a shot because he didn't have a cabin to hole up in.
Ooh wee.
He had a tent.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to withstand getting big rocks thrown at it all night.
Yeah.
But he was within feet of this thing when it screamed at him.
Cool.
Crap.
That probably rattled his fillings out of his teeth.
I'm sure it rattled something out of him. I don't know if it was fillings, or it could have been fillings, depending on how you want to look at it.
His pants were probably getting filled, that's for sure. Dude, that would scare the ever living poop out of me, like literally and figuratively.
Doc would be sitting on Little Doc's back trying to kickstart him like a Scooby-Doo episode.
We'd be getting further, son.
It'd be like it's like the old saying: first you say it, then you do it.
And you do it exactly.
Yeah.
We'd be getting the heck out of Dodge. That's a scary one there, especially because the other one was outside the dude's cabin. That's one thing, but this dude is just sitting there standing outside his tent, and it just keeps getting closer. Okay, so what is that? Is that aggression, or is that just him it kind of asserting its dominance and saying you're on my turf?
I think it was a territorial thing.
Because it's
Well, I
like
mean-
getting closer.
If it was that close to him, I mean, literally, the way it sounds, it was, let's say, within probably 5 yards. Because
It
it
could have
was,
snatched him up if it wanted to.
yeah.
Angela Monroe says, I'd have had some words after the "you're not the first."
You ain't lying.
Well, we used to refer to that as a coming to Jesus moment. Me and my supervisor would have had us one in the parking lot.
Yeah, might have had a little wall to wall counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really close, man. And honestly, they kind of did him they kind of did him wrong by not letting him know that, hey,
Right.
if you hear anything, these are some reports from people in the past, so you may
Right.
hear something out there. I'd give somebody a heads up.
Yeah.
If
I would too.
If I was sending one of my troops out, I'd be like, hey, just you know, to get everything to be totally transparent. This is what you might
Okay,
hear.
but then again, Robbie, let's throw a scenario out here. You're fresh out of the academy. You're getting your first road posting. You've been in uniform 6 months, and one night you're working graveyard, and your patrol supervisor pulls you to the side and says, "Hey, when you get out to the north end of the county, you might see something big and hairy walking along the road." Would you think he was just messing with you?
In a law enforcement standpoint, 100%. Because you'd be like, okay,
Whatever, yeah.
yeah.
Until your spotlight catches something 8 feet tall punching over a dead deer, looking at you like, "Do you mind?"
Yeah.
And then you go back to Sergeant and say, he's like, "Yep, you went out there, didn't you? I told you."
Yep. No, Ken, I am not a Blue Falcon. For sure. Yeah, Northwoods, that's fact. Some blast fence training. Amen.
When I was still working in the jail,
military and law enforcement.
when I was still working in the jail, me and another officer, I won't say his name in case any of the others are listening. Jenkins will probably get a kick out of this, but we made up our own Blue Falcon awards, and we would leave them on certain people's lockers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anytime somebody did something to, a Blue Falcon worthy, they got one taped to their locker.
There's plenty of them out there, like Robbie said, in law enforcement, military. I mean, honestly, any job.
We had one not too terribly long ago did something like that, and he got a Blue Falcon award from pretty much the entire department. And he went to Chief and put this in there, and Chief's like, "Well, why did you do what you did?"
Hey, Ken, ain't seen you in a minute, buddy.
Hey, y'all, excuse me 1 minute. I'll be right back.
No worries, brother. But yeah, if you were that ranger, would you have believed your supervisor if he told you? You'd have either thought he was messing with you or was crazy, one of the two.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess 90% of people probably, if it'd been one of us, we would have, but probably not. But as that supervisor, like Doc's saying, you need to at least, whether he believes you or not, then when he has that and he comes back and well, I told you. You at least gotta give him that courtesy, because if you don't, then you're sending him out there completely
unawares and unprepared.
Yeah.
But if I've believed in this subject since I was a kid, but if I was just some guy that just had joined or had transferred in from another department even and joined this ranger troop, and my supervisor goes, "Oh, by the way, when you're walking along this trail, watch out for Bigfoot," I'd went, "Yeah, well, whatever." I would have been convinced that they were just messing with me, and it might have even thought it was one of them pulling a prank on me until it got close.
Yeah.
So I can kind of get why the supervisor didn't tell him, but at the same time, I would have wanted to know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least at that point, as a supervisor, you can say, well, whether he believed me or not, I warned him.
Right.
Hey, all else and nothing else fails. I tried.
Yeah, because what happens if that turns into an encounter where he gets ripped into pieces, and the supervisor knew full well that this is something that's happened plenty of times before. You know, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell him.
I don't know about rangers everywhere, but couple of rangers I was talking to out in Mark Twain, most of the like conservation agents carry Glocks, just like standard law enforcement. But I ran into two old boys in the Mark Twain one day, and they were both carrying 44 Magnums.
Interesting.
They weren't carrying standard Glocks. They had looked like the big Ruger 44 mags. What is the Red Hawk?
Super Hawk or Red Hawk?
Super Hawk.
Well,
they both had one.
They're both 44s, but I think one of them's a single action, one of them's double action. That right, Doc?
Yeah,
the Super Hawk and Red Hawk.
The Super Black Hawk is the single action, and the Red Hawk is the double action.
Yeah.
I asked them about it. I'm like, you guys carrying a little bit bigger than your standard Glock, and their response was bears.
Okay.
Like, okay. Yeah. Whatever you say, man.
Sure.
I like what Ken just said. When I was a kid, I thought Bigfoot, quicksand, and cobras were going to be a bigger part of my life than they turned out to be. Quicksand, man. Gilligan's Island, dude.
Yeah, but well, heck, half the TV shows, even the Dukes of Hazzard had a quicksand episode.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, every TV show from 1974 to 1985 all had an episode that showed up at one point where they've got to pull somebody out of quicksand.
It was also in Blazing Saddles.
Yep, sure was.
Yeah, Mondoc, yeah, here in Missouri. I ran into him in the Mark Twain Forest down by Shell Knob.
That's funny.
I was out there looking for a way into Big Bend Campground. I wasn't violating any laws or anything. I was simply exploring an area of the Mark Twain National Forest.
It's public land, isn't it?
Yeah. Nick says we were cleaning up a homeless campsite this past summer. I told an employee, do not open the tin can. She opened it and found it. Yeah, exactly. Stay upwind of the burn barrel. Best advice I ever got. Northwoods, I would tend to agree. Because the guy from Kentucky Ballistics showed a 10 millimeter will stop a bear. So 44 Magnum, they were looking to stop something, all right.
Yeah.
And it was one of the only times I've ever seen rangers working together. Usually they work solo. And that was right outside that campground that got shut down a couple of years ago without explanation.
Weird, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, odd, isn't it?
You know, it's not like that's a common occurrence now.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of those shut down campgrounds around here. Jessica says, "Do you sure they're Rangers?" Well, they were wearing the uniform of Rangers, so I didn't ask for ID, but they were wearing the uniform and had the truck, so I assumed that's who they were.
Yep, they were also wearing the uniforms of Rangers in Lakeview, man, too.
That's true, and those fellas weren't Rangers.
Nope.
Hmm.
You never said. Was that part of the wild hunt? Or was that just
that was the hunt?
Okay,
that was two of the guys from the hunt. Providing cover story.
One of them had to be Margolin then, since he was gawking at Amanda.
It probably was. Looking back, I hadn't created Margolin yet.
Oh, okay. But still, it had to have been Margolin.
Margolin didn't get invented until the first book of Codename Wild Hunt.
But he was already part of the team at that point, though.
Yeah, he was already part of the team. I just hadn't introduced the character.
That still probably was him because it had his behavior. So technically, that probably was him.
Yeah, it probably was.
That was probably the beginnings of Margolin right there.
Very well could be. I was laying the precursor for Margolin.
There you have it, folks. Inside story. There you go.
There you go.
Northwood says, DA, maybe your books give the government agencies plausible deniability. Never thought of that.
Yeah, we
That's-
have.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Think about the story that was told in Shadow Walkers 3. That's really
Yeah.
kind of how we went with it.
Yeah, that is true.
And that was your idea, so technically you have thought about it.
Ken says, DA, which place took place on the Mogollon Rim? That's Nightmare Hunter, Uncanny Valley. We drove through there just before Christmas. Yeah, that would have been Nightmare Hunter. The Nightmare Hunter Uncanny Valley was the one in the Mogollon Rim. So, back to the talking points on this. That I really feel bad for that ranger. His supervisor should have at least tried to warn him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
he definitely hung him out to dry.
Yeah.
Especially when, that comment, you're not the first. Well, fella,
Dude. Yeah. Thanks for the info, bro.
yeah, you could have told me even if I thought she was crazy until I heard it. And then all you had to say later was, you were warned.
Right. Mm-mm-mm.
Long Queen says the bush outside your window is not sabotaging, it's gathering intel.
Well, I should probably make some more hot coffee and take him a cup because it is cold out there tonight.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's the kind of tonight's the kind of night. If you were out there and decided you were going to pee on a tree, you better take a hammer to break off the stream.
Dude.
It's cold out there, bitter cold.
Yeah.
So, what about the vocalization? Do you think it was amplified because of the canyon?
Probably the canyon and the close proximity.
Well, you get into those narrow canyons like that, and sound does amplify. But geez, something with that kind of lung capacity then amplified in a canyon.
Yeah.
Miss Lenny says, "Take him a whoopee." Well, I've got one. I just got to find which box it's in. Speaking of that, I ought to dig that thing out and use it in my recliner. So, what do you think? Do you think this was a threat display or just territorial?
I feel like it was territorial. It was just doing that to shake him up and scare him because it could have.
Well, I imagine it did that.
Yeah, I mean, because he was in a tent, dude. I mean, if it wanted him, he had his grab and go bag right there. He could have taken him and just dragged him in a tent.
You know what else is kind of terrifying about this story? Yosemite is also one of the biggest clusters in the missing 411, clusters of disappearances.
Interesting.
That is interesting. Wow.
That is where one of the largest concentrations of disappearance is. Yosemite and Yellowstone. Those are the two biggest.
Huh. Well, that's a nice little tidbit.
Speaking of missing 411, did you know that the Can-Am project, Missing 411, David Pilates, they recently released a video talking about a subject we talked about a long time ago, Julian Sands.
Oh, that's right, dude. I didn't think about that.
We discussed the disappearance of Julian Sands right after it happened.
Yeah.
And a few times since. But he recently dropped a video on the disappearance of Julian Sands. So it fits the missing 411. So our theories weren't all that far off. At least we're not the only ones thinking that.
That's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, I caught that video the other day and I was like, wonder where I've heard this theory before.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So, we might be a little channel, but it looks like some other channels may be noticing what we're doing. John Wayne Gates says, says Super Red Hawk 9 3/4 inch. It's like carrying a rifle. Well, I don't know if it was the 9 3/4 inch, but it was a big old honking handgun. It's way bigger than my 357 that I was carrying at the time, and mine's got the 4-inch barrel. Miss Lene says we got 15 minutes till, which means about 10 minutes until we got to make a commercial break. Let's go ahead and introduce the next segment, and then we'll take a pause at 5 minutes till for the commercials. I guess I'm going to take segment 6 because I had 3. Doc, you want to lead us into segment 6?
Absolutely. So what we just talked about with the Yosemite Night Screamer shows us a creature that doesn't need to be seen to dominate the landscape. A single vocalization can freeze if it can freeze a ranger in place and shake the air and leave a mark on the mind that lasts for decades. There was no physical encounter. But sometimes the most disturbing encounters aren't loud at all. Sometimes the danger doesn't roar. Sometimes it doesn't circle your camp. Sometimes it doesn't just test your door or slap the walls. Sometimes it just keeps pace with you. And our next case takes us to the San Juan Mountains of Colorado, where a forest ranger driving a lonely fire road found himself shadowed by something impossibly tall, impossibly thin, and impossibly fast. This is segment 6.
This was known as the Thin Runner of San Juan. It happened in the San Juan National Forest of Colorado. This is a report from a ranger. Unknown type of cryptid, tall, thin, and extremely fast. The San Juan Mountains rise like jagged teeth from the earth. Their slopes are covered in dense spruce and fir that swallow the light even on a clear day. Ranger Mark Hensley knew these roads better than most. Narrow fire trails carved into the mountainside, twisting through miles of untouched wilderness. It was late September, just after dusk, when Hensley began the long drive back to his district station. The sky was a deep indigo, the last traces of daylight fading behind the peaks. His headlights cut a narrow tunnel through the dark, illuminating dust, branches, and the occasional startled deer. Halfway down the ridge, he felt it. There was a presence there. He didn't see anything, he didn't hear anything, but he felt it, like the weight of something standing just behind you. Hensley slowed the cruiser, scanning the tree line. Nothing moved, no wind moved, no animals were moving, just the oppressive stillness of the high country at night. He decided to continue on down the road, and that's when he saw it. A shape in the corner of his headlights, tall, impossibly thin, and standing between 2 pine trees. For a moment, he thought it was a dead tree, but then it shifted. Long limbs, narrow torso, and a head that seemed too small for the body, and the legs that bent just slightly wrong. Hensley's breath caught in his throat. The creature stepped forward, and in 2 strides it was at the edge of the road. And then it ran. Not away, alongside him. Hensley hit the gas, the cruiser lurching forward. The creature matched his speed instantly, its long legs eating up the ground with unnatural efficiency. It didn't pump its arms, it didn't lean forward, it just glided, its movement smooth and silent. 30 miles an hour, 40, 45, the creature kept pace. Hensley risked a glance at it, and he wished he hadn't. The thing's face was pale in the headlights, featureless except for 2 dark hollows where the eyes should have been. Its mouth hung slightly open, not panting, not straining, just open, as if running required no effort at all. The road curved sharply, so Hensley braked hard, tires skidding on the loose gravel. The creature didn't slow down. It simply veered off the road and continued running parallel through the trees, weaving between the trunks with impossible precision. Hensley floored the accelerator again, and the creature reappeared right beside him. This time it was closer. Close enough that he could hear the faint thud of its feet hitting the ground. A rhythmic, almost mechanical cadence. Then, without warning, it surged ahead, crossed the road in a blur of motion. So Hensley slammed on the brakes, his heart hammering in his chest, and the creature just vanished into the darkness on the other side of the road. Then silence returned, but the presence didn't. Hensley drove the rest of the way down to the mountain with every nerve on edge, checking his mirrors, scanning the tree line, just waiting for that thing to reappear, but it never did. But when he finally reached the ranger station and stepped out of the cruiser, he noticed something on the passenger side door. A smear. A long, vertical smear, as if something had run its hand or a limb along the metal while keeping pace. Inslee fired an incident report. His supervisor read it, looked him in the eye, and said quietly, "You ain't the first one to report that thing."
What's up with these supervisors?
Yeah, tell somebody, god dang it.
Dang, dude, that's just rude.
You know what that sounds like? A pale crawler or a wendigo.
Mm-hmm. Good. Ugh. I mean, the way that thing was keeping pace with him, jeez, oh Pete, dude.
That's enough to give you the full-on heebies and the jeebies.
Yeah, it is.
Boondock Mojo says, DA, my uncle Jim Henning, OKC fire chief and well-known prankster, used to tell me about the Bigfoot at the Lake Thunderbird where he lived. Thing about a prankster, you never know when they're serious. Good point. So what do you guys think? I think, to me, that sounds like a wendigo.
Well, I mean, that's prime territory.
It sounds a lot like that North Carolina story we talked about too.
Well, Doc, you live up that way. How close is that to that Pikes Peak sighting?
Oh yeah, the San Juans. That's down near like Durango. That's about 5-6 hours driving. So yeah, it's a good ways. But that area, that's also close to the Four Corners.
Yep. And Robbie, you're absolutely right. It sounds a lot like that thing that jumped in that dude's pickup bed.
Yep. The 911 call.
I remember that one. I remember that one.
That old boy was about to crap concertina wire from the sound of it. He was in the bed of his truck and he kept screaming, "It ain't human! It ain't human!"
Yeah. That's that to me. It sounds a lot like that critter. Because that's prime territory. Ain't that right, Doc? We would be getting out of there, wouldn't we? Yes, sir.
And the fact that it touched the vehicle, which to me that says if it wanted to, it could have got in.
That's even creepier.
Or it tried.
Yeah, when you got that part of the story and said that, I was like, ew.
Yeah, it either tried to get in and failed, or it touched it just to let him know it could have.
Mm-hmm.
But a wendigo, I don't think a wendigo would have given it up. Not unless it couldn't keep up anymore, or it was getting out of its territory, because they do seem to be tied to a specific area.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, so I mean, the fact that it did have that smear, that's physical evidence. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing, dude?
And so apparently other rangers had seen that thing up in the mountains.
Wow. And it wasn't even strange. It wasn't even strange to keep up with him.
Lone Queen says, and the behavior was similar. Yeah.
Yep.
Right before you guys started the story, my son Nick came in, and the door that leads out onto our deck is just right over here on the other side of my computer. When he opened that door to let Harley out, I was like, "Oh, good God!" And now Harley's over here laying next to my heater.
I don't blame Harley at all.
Yeah, we got about 7 minutes. No, we got about 2 minutes until we've got to start. Got to do a pause. We have to stop at 5 till for a pause for the cause, so to speak. Just a guy says, "Man, could these government cryptid teams be any more inefficient? You really would think Wendigos would be a top priority." Yeah, that would definitely be a wild hunt call.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But that thing kept up with his vehicle easy. And I kind of get the feeling that when he passed a certain point, it veered off and went back. But if he'd have got out, probably would just found an abandoned vehicle.
Yeah, because that was, to me, that wasn't just territorial. That was pretty aggressive right there.
Yeah. I think it legit was trying to get him. It probably tried to get the door open.
Oh, thank you.
Exactly. So again, I personally think, and this is just me, I personally think that a pale crawler and a wendigo are actually the same type of creature. I think they just call it different. Most people expect a wendigo to have like the deer antler skull and the antlers, but according to Algonquin lore, they didn't look like that. That is somebody somewhere along the lines kind of did that as just probably a terrifying image, or they might have, like I said in Curse of the Wendigo, where Doc lost his snowmobile tragically. It was a mask that the creature wore.
Right. Because it has they always say they have a very skeletal, gaunt face, and sometimes the lips are missing because they even eat
chewed them off.
Yeah, chewed them off because of the hunger. Oh, it's time.
Well, if you were out there doing that to a snowmobile, would you want somebody to know what your face really looked like?
That's a fact. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
In a world where monsters still walk the earth, one author dares to face them. From the brutal cryptid horror of the Apex Predator series to the Ozark legends that stalk the night in Lakeview Man, from the elite warriors of codename Wild Hunt to the relentless investigations of the Nightmare Hunter and the frontier terror of Dark Frontiers. When the dead rise, the Ragnarok Rising saga unleashes pure zombie apocalypse fury. And across the stars, war rages in the Lost Legion and man's marauders. And in the realm of myth and steel, the world of Vanguard calls to those born for legend. Cryptids, zombies, sci-fi warfare, epic fantasy. This is the universe of D.A. Roberts. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com. The Unex Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes, made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unex Network website at unexnetwork.com. That's unexnetwork.com.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
right, folks, we are back. I hope you guys are keeping warm, keeping your coffee topped up, or hot cocoa, or whatever you're drinking. Tonight we made homemade potato soup, and it was so good. And a good hot soup on a night like this really kind of hits all the right spots. So I hope you guys are home somewhere safe and warm, and are enjoying the program tonight. But we're going to jump right back into the middle of this. So San Juan Mountains, possible Wendigo. Boys, what do you guys think?
I kind of think what you said before. I think the pale crawler and the Wendigo probably are a lot of this are the same type of creature. I mean, if it's an evil spirit, it's an evil spirit. It's not tied to one specific spot. It could appear wherever it wanted to, within reason, I guess. But to me, it just sounds so much like that incident in North Carolina. And, you know, I think that's what it was. I think this is something supernatural.
I agree. There was definitely supernatural elements to this. Doc, what do you think?
I would concur. As thin as it was, as tall as it was, and everything, to me, it seems like it would be extremely difficult for something that tall, that thin to maintain that level of speed unless there was not a supernatural component to it. You know what I mean? I could understand a Dogman, like the first encounter, that thing was chasing them and doing 45, 55 miles an hour, you know what I mean?
Right.
And keeping
pure speed and power.
Exactly. That's pure speed. That's raw muscle and power. But the way this thing was described, that definitely, yeah, to me, it seems like it's like one of those pale crawlers, or like you said, in some areas, pale crawlers and Wendigos are the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the way it described the way it moved, kind of a floating, gliding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
That's really weird. The smear on the cruiser, that's what gets me though, man. Whenever you said that in the story, I was like, whoa, holy crap. I mean, it's already terrifying enough as it is, but could you imagine getting out of your freaking cruiser and walking around the side and seeing a big smear down it where it had touched it? Dude, that's creepy as crap.
Yeah. Well, I've got an image for you guys. And this is a classic interpretation of the Wendigo based on the Algonquin legend. So I'm going to bring this up and see if this looks anything like what you guys or have your mental image of this particular creature. So when I bring this up, what jumps to mind?
Yeah, pale crawler.
Snowmobile.
That is the classic interpretation of a Wendigo.
Snowmobile.
Look at the deep set eyes, just like described in that story.
And if you had never heard of a Wendigo, but you've heard of something called a pale crawler, and you saw that, what would you call it?
Pale crawler.
I think Doc would come up with a couple other words while he's looking.
Snowmobile assaulter. Yeah, that is terrifying, dude. If I saw something like that running next to my cruiser, and like you said, the dude floored it. You know what I mean? He said he floored it, so he was going as fast as he could on that gravel road.
But
look at the missing lips that have been chewed off, the deep set of the eyes, and a lot of the flesh shoot off the fingers.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
One for it and one for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of, though, in pop culture?
What's that?
Think Lord of the Rings, the movie.
Kind of like Gollum? I had not thought of that.
Look at it. Especially in the face. I wonder if Peter Jackson maybe took some
inspiration
from stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's pretty pale. He crawled around a lot.
Gollum was supposed to be one of the river folk who were very much like hobbits that had been corrupted by the ring, and a Wendigo is just a human that's been corrupted by cannibalism and greed. So it's a corrupted person. So
That's true.
yeah, it kind of fits.
It do.
Boys, if that had been running next to us in the truck, well, when we were leaving Moon Valley, I don't think Doc would have stopped yet.
We'd still be driving.
Yeah.
Sliding sideways around corners.
Yes, that is. Yeah. 100%, boys.
We'd have done made the loop at California and been headed back towards New York by now.
Mm-mm. All right.
That's a pretty terrifying image.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Either way, Hellcrawler, Wendigo, whatever it is, I wouldn't want it running next to my vehicle, especially if I'm alone out in the mountains.
Negative. And especially the supervisor's like, oh, yeah, you're not the first one to see that.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, we'll get in the truck because I'm going to go feed you to that dang thing.
Thanks, jackwagon.
Not going to be cutting a hole in his floorboard beneath his accelerator so he can get more more space.
Yeah, like the Flintstones.
Exactly. Sticking my feet out. Good night, Lori. Good night.
Right,
Good night, Lori. So why do you think it just chose to pace the vehicle instead of attacking it? Or did it?
I think it was trying to attack it.
It sounds like it was trying to attack it.
I think it paced it to attack it.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't just chasing the dude out. If he was chasing him out, he would have been behind him. He was keeping up with him. You know what I mean?
Looking for an opening.
Yeah. Literally.
Because if he's just chasing him out, there's no reason to reach out and try to grab a hold of the vehicle and get a hold of it.
Right. Miss Lene says, I'm so thankful I never ran anything like that back when I did solo trail rides. If you had, we probably wouldn't have ever met you.
Right. That is scary.
So, what do you think? Was that predator behavior, a scout? I think it was predator behavior.
Oh, as predator as something supernatural like that can be, I would say.
I think Ranger was on the menu that night.
Yeah. It was definitely that was very aggro. That was very aggressive behavior. You know what I mean? To me, that was very aggressive.
I mean, that's go back to the first story. We all unanimously agreed that was hyper aggressive. Body checked the car and caused it to fishtail. Well, this thing wasn't strong enough to body check the car, but it sure was fast enough to keep up with it and make a grab at it and try to gain access.
Lone Queen says maybe the creature's like a cheetah. It can only run super fast for short distances. It's possible.
And had this been a truck like that guy in North Carolina, it may have got the bed of the truck like that thing in North Carolina did.
Woo-wee.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
And at that point, once it's got a hold, it's in the bed of the truck. It'd be pretty simple for it to smash that back window out and drag him out.
Mercy day. All right, that. Cow. Yeah.
Doc could just be shooting over his shoulder out that window.
Doc air conditioning the back of his vehicle.
Exactly. That thing will be well ventilated, son. God. I mean, something jumps in your keeps up with you, then jumps into the bed of your pickup truck. Holy crap. Dude.
Yeah, I think that's what it was trying to do with the guy in North Carolina. I think he was just fishtailing and sliding all over the place, and it shook it loose. I know I would have been. I'd have been all over that road trying to shake that dang thing out of the bed of the pickup.
Exactly. Choo-wee.
One Queen says, or maybe there was more than one. It was a different one each time it veered and came back. That's kind of a terrifying thought. Good night, Mondoc.
Yeah, that is weird. That is terrifying.
I have 2 crawlers, one for each of you.
Exactly. Oh man. Yeah, these encounters.
Yeah, these are creepy.
Yeah.
But the San Juan Thin Runner is the kind of encounter that rewires a ranger's understanding of what can move through the forest. Something that tall, that fast, and that silent shouldn't exist, and yet multiple rangers have seen it. But when it comes to credibility, nothing hits harder than law enforcement. Because when a sheriff's deputy calls something in, when a state trooper backs it up, and when multiple officers witness the same creature on the same night, you're no longer dealing with a rumor or just campfire stories. You're dealing with trained observers, official reports, and a case that refuses to die. Our final segment takes us to the small town of Whitehall, New York, in the late summer of 1978, a night when several deputies and a state trooper came face to face with something massive, upright, and completely unafraid of them. Doc, you want to take us into the final segment?
Yes, sir. So the Whitehall encounter is in Whitehall, New York, 1978. The witnesses were some sheriff's deputies and a state trooper, and it was a large biped type cryptid. The rural roads outside Whitehall, New York, are quiet after dark. Long stretches of farmland broken by patches of dense woods and the occasional farmhouse light. In August of 1978, Deputy Brian Gosselin was patrolling Bear Road, a narrow, winding stretch bordered by thick timber. It was just after 11 p.m. when the call came in. A local teenager had reported seeing a huge thing standing near the tree line. Not a bear and not a man, something else. So Gosselin responded, expecting a prank or a misidentified animal. He was wrong. As he rolled slowly down Bear Road, his headlights swept over the ditch line and caught a shape standing just beyond the beam. Tall, broad, covered in dark hair, eyes reflecting a deep burning red. Kind of like what my brother saw. Gosselin hit the brakes. The creature didn't move. It stood upright, shoulders massive, arms hanging low, chest rising and falling with slow, deliberate breaths, and its eyes locked onto the cruiser, unblinking. But before he could speak, Gosselin reached for his radio, but before he could speak, the creature stepped forward. One stride, then another, closing the distance with terrifying confidence. Gosselin threw the cruiser in reverse, tires spitting gravel. The creature continued toward him, its gait smooth and powerful as it had no fear of the vehicle at all. Dispatch, I need backup, Gosselin said, voice shaking. I got something big out here, not human. Deputy Paul Kay arrived first, pulling up behind Gosselin's cruiser. He stepped out, shining a spotlight towards the tree line. The creature turned toward him and roared, a deep, resonant bellow that echoed across the fields, vibrating through the cruiser's metal frames. Paul stumbled backward, drawing his weapon. Jesus Christ, he whispered, what is that? Before either deputy could react, another vehicle approached, a New York State trooper responding to the call. He stepped out, took one look at the creature, and immediately shouted, get back in your cars. Seemed like a reasonable thing to do. The creature moved again, not away, but sideways, pacing along the ditch line with long, deliberate strides. It was massive, easily 7 to 8 feet tall, with a barrel chest and arms that swung low like a primate's. Excuse me. The trooper raised his shotgun. The creature stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. The deputies, the troopers, the night itself was holding its breath. Then the creature let out another roar, louder this time, and stepped toward the road. The trooper fired a warning shot into the air, and the creature flinched, not in fear, but in irritation. Then turned and vanished into the woods with shocking speed, crashing through brush like a freight train. The officers stood there frozen, listening as the sound faded into the distance. When they finally approached the spot where the creature had stood, they found deep impressions in the soft earth. Massive human-shaped tracks, spaced far too wide apart for any man. The deputies filed their reports, the trooper filed his, and the Whitehall encounter became one of the most credible multiple officer cryptid sightings in American history.
That incident had to be documented because the trooper expended a round.
Exactly. Once you expend a round, there's paperwork. Ain't that right, Doc? Was you falling asleep? Yeah. this whole thing, the witness credibility is huge because you've got not one, not two, but three law enforcement officers, two deputies, and a state trooper who witnessed it, and they all their stories matched up to be the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, from different agencies, because that's important right there.
Right.
You can't say, well, they were all buddies, so they got their story together.
Right.
That trooper was not from their agency.
Well, and because sometimes, there's a little bit of interdepartmental,
Friction.
Rivalry or friction, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but this thing, they said it was like 7 to 8 feet tall. And what gets me, this thing was coming towards them. Even after the dude pulled a shotgun out. I mean, it stopped. It was kind of like, oh, what's that? He recognized it, I think.
Yeah.
Shot up in the air.
I've heard Gosling give his recount of this story several times. And he's very, very believable, very, very authentic in his recounting of the story.
I want to watch that. I'd like to see it because it's like Fred. I've heard Fred give his account like 3 times, and every single time Fred gives his encounter, dude, it shakes him up because
it doesn't change, and you can clearly see it shakes him up.
He's living it. He's reliving that whole thing. I bet the Gosling dude's like that too, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
I have to send me that, Robbie. I'd like to check that out, dude. Yeah, I mean. And this is, like you said, in here, this is one of the most credible encounters on record because it is on record, and it has multiple witnesses who are law enforcement officers are designed. Y'all are trained to look at details and give accurate descriptions of the encounters and the perpetrators, the suspects, whatever. You know what I mean? And so. That lends even more credibility to it, in my opinion. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, what's the number of times you have to testify on something to be classified an expert witness? Is like 5 times, something like that.
At least, I think it's at least 5.
So, if the court system, recognize you as an expert witness based on your training and prior knowledge, with testifying 5 times. I mean,
right.
There you go. So, I mean, the fact that, like DA said, it's, you got 2 officers from one agency and you got another one from a highway patrol. It comes, DA knows this. Usually, city and county usually get along pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But city, county, and highway don't usually jihad much.
There's usually some friction between the stadies and local guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, locals don't like calling the stadies in unless there ain't no choice. And I know when I was with county, all the deputies I knew, like the only time I really want to deal with those guys is when we turn over an accident scene because that's all they want to work.
Yeah. So for them to all have their stories matching up, and the fact that it was the highway patrolman that fired the shot. If New York's highway patrol is anything like our highway patrol, they are meticulous with everything. So for him to actually discharge his firearm, he really thought there was something to it.
Right. And so let me ask you this. So from a behavioral standpoint, y'all are more experts on this than I am, and I'll gladly admit that. As far as its movement, why do you think it only retreated after the warning shot was fired? Because it was pushing on them, man. It kept coming up and roaring. And so do y'all think that was like territorial, or is it just aggressive, or both? I don't know.
Maybe it was a bluff. Maybe it was a bluff charge, and the firearm called its bluff, so to speak. I
kind of agree with Robbie there. I think maybe it was given a threat display, and they gave one back, and it's like, all right, fine.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Because
it wasn't until that trooper fired the warning shot with his shotgun that thing backed off and popped back in the woods.
Yeah. So Who knows what would have happened if he hadn't fired that shot?
Yeah.
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 It might have kept coming, or it might have just gotten to a certain point and veered off into the woods anyway.
Right.
But whether they fired a warning shot or not, it got its point across.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indubitably.
Man, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did this one because this is one of my favorite. I mean, obviously for reasons, it's a law enforcement, just like I'm sure it's the same with DA. I mean, this is one of those that, as a police officer, you're looking at it and like, yeah, see, I know where these guys are coming from. I didn't have my sighting when I was a police officer on duty, but it's like, okay, see, we're not the only ones, and it's just that. What's the word I'm looking for? Not that it's any more verified than anybody else's reports. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying but I think DA said it earlier when, this is something that had to be reported because there was a discharge of a weapon. So for them to put exactly what they put in the report, they weren't lying because they
got a lot to lose by putting that in the report.
Yeah, I mean, if they were going to lie about it, they wouldn't have said it was a Bigfoot. They would have said that it was a wild dog that charged at him, and that's why he fired the warning shot to run the dog off. There's no reason. They don't have anything at all to gain by saying that this is a Bigfoot type creature that was coming at them. Right. So that, to me, and I like I said, I know DA feels the exact same way I do, and any other police officers listening in chat knows if they put that in the report, I 100% believe that that's what happened because there's if they were going to exaggerate something, they would have not put that part in there because how many times we said they probably had to go take a whiz quiz
again
or a polygraph.
What do they have to gain from it? What do they have?
They're opening a big old can of worms right there on their career because from that point on, pretty much other officers are going to be giving them crap about it. Their chain of command is going to, even if they pass the whiz quiz and the polygraph, there's going to be people that will go, "Oh, that guy's just crazy. I don't want to work with him. He's crazy."
Exactly.
Thinks he saw a Bigfoot.
Yeah, he's nuts. Yeah, and that's the whole reason we've said this on so many shows. That's the reason more people don't report this stuff because they don't want to deal with the stigma.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, my brother Keith it took him over a decade to relay his encounter with me. And I'm his brother because he didn't want anybody. He's like, I'm a doctor, dude. I don't want anybody thinking I'm nuts. If it got out to my patients, don't go see him. He's freaking, he needs to go see another kind of doctor. So, yeah, I get it.
One of the doctors at the hospital I used to work at told me his Bigfoot encounter story on an overnight when there wasn't a whole lot going on. It was a dead night, dead of winter, kind of a cold night like this. And we just got to talking back in the trauma unit. And he's like, I'll tell you this story, but you keep my dang name out of it because there'd be a lot of people on here where the review board alone would probably sink my career. And his story was pretty creepy. I've told it on here a couple of times where they got ran out of a campsite and basically left all their crap in the middle of the night and just left.
Wow. Dang.
Camping with his wife and kids.
Wow. See, I've never heard this encounter before, so this was really cool for me to hear that. So I'd like to check all that story out. Okay, little dude.
Yeah, this is one of the most credible encounter stories I've ever heard. Not only because it came from cops, but just when you watch that documentary, Doc, you're going to see it on that guy's face. It's very much like Fred. I mean, at one point you could see that guy just kind of stop and kind of take a breath to settle his nerves, and then he goes on.
He's reliving it right here, dude. Yeah.
You can't make up that kind of fear.
No. Yeah, that was a great one to end on for sure. I'm glad you included that for sure.
Just a guy says, DA, what was the most recent episode? Dude, we've done almost 400 episodes. I could not for the life of me tell you which episode it was on. But long story short, I'll recap it for you. This guy, trauma surgeon, him and his family went camping in the Mark Twain National Forest. They were just, it was summertime. They wanted to go out and spend some time out in the woods and just get away from cell phones and all the crap. He said they were out there, planning on being out there for 3 nights. First night was fine. Second night, they heard something pacing around their camp, and when he got out, he saw it. They said he wouldn't let his kids see it and told his wife not to look. And they left their camping equipment, everything. They just, coolers, all of it. They scooped up the kids, ran to the truck, spun it around, and took off. And he said, I don't know if that stuff's still out there, or if somebody came along and took it, or if it got destroyed, but I ain't going back to get it.
It's free.
Yeah, you want it? I'll draw you a map on how to find it. But
I wonder. Yeah, we did that. The one on Joe Ball where the 2 fishermen found that campsite. I wonder if that's what happened to them. They saw something and said,
yeah, we're out of here.
Good point, Robbie.
I mean, how many times have we heard stories about rangers or cops or even hikers coming across abandoned campgrounds?
Yep.
Stuff left behind, a tree. I mean, a tent stomped down or broken down or ripped apart. I can't remember their names. They do a lot of stuff in LBL. For the life of me, I cannot think of their names. It's husband and wife. But anyway, they go into Joe Bald, and they found 3 or 4 abandoned camps in Joe Bald.
Wow.
Just everything left behind, clothes, tent, all of it.
You talking about the ones from South Carolina?
I don't remember where they're from, but it's yeah,
Oh.
there we go. That's it. That's what it is. Yeah, they found several campgrounds abandoned in LBL.
Yeah, they're from.
With literally everything left behind.
That's Jesse and Joe Doyle.
Yeah, I've met them before, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember their names.
Yeah.
I met them at a conference 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years ago, I think it was 2022. I believe it was. But I suck with names. Ask anybody.
They're good people.
So, why do you think that thing only retreated after a warning shot?
The more we talk about it, I think it was probably a bluff charge, and they called it bluff. And
Right.
maybe it would have veered off, like you said earlier, had they not fired the shot. But I don't think they wanted to find out if it would or not.
Northwood says something tells me if someone on a PRP filed a sighting report, they'd lose their security clearance. Would not surprise me.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of military sightings are either reported anonymously or not reported at all.
Well,
Yeah.
just look at the Lizard Man of Lee County. That Air Force. I can't remember if he was an NCO or I think he was an NCO, but he made the report. Said he actually said he shot it and took in a piece of scale with some blood on it, supposedly, and made the report and all that stuff. And then
Come back and retracted it.
Yeah, it came back with another or the military escort and said, I lied. I need to retract my report.
Yeah.
I think Doc, last time we talked about that, I think Doc said, yeah, he was told to shut up in color.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple of MPs from Fort Leonard Wood who I asked them if they had, got called to anything like that. And they said that nothing like that officially exists in any report, and we're not allowed to talk about it.
Which means it does exist, and they ain't saying, you know what.
Yeah, they're not saying anything because they're going to get their butt in a sling. Lene says maybe it hurt. Maybe it had been shot before, but they said it didn't look scared. It just looked kind of aggravated and then walked away. Just a guy says, for us non-military folk, what's a PRP? Northwoods was Air Force. I'm not 100% sure what a PRP is either. Doc left, so we can't ask him.
It stands for the Personnel Reliability Program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So guys have high security clearances, dudes that work like nukes and stuff like that. Flight, airfield security things, transporting stuff like that. It's a Yeah, it's like Northwood just said, it's a high level security involving nuclear stuff. So yeah,
In the Army, they called it PSSP, Personal Security Screening and Processing.
Come here, buddy.
Again, with even the last few shows we've had, even the description was consistent with reports from on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, mercy.
So, what do you think would have happened with that deputy if backup hadn't got there as quick as it did? Because it sounded like they got there pretty fast.
I mean, if he had stayed there, I don't know. I don't mean, because like Robbie said, was it a bluff charge? I don't know. But if I'd have seen that thing and I'd have been there by myself and I would have had backup.
Well, it don't sound like he was hanging around.
Yeah, I'd have
sound like he was sound like he was unassing the AO.
As a deputy, what can you do?
Right.
It's not like you're going to read it its Miranda rights and throw it in the back seat of the car. I mean, you don't have really a legal responsibility to try to detain or stop a Bigfoot unless it's physically harming somebody. Then all bets are off.
That thing would rip your light bar off and beat you to death with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or your bumper.
Yeah, screw that. I'm out. Later.
Or pull your engine block out and drop that on you.
Exactly. Run away to fight again another day.
Yeah. Well, discretion is the better part of valor.
Dang right, son. In that instance, yes.
Like I said, it sounded like he was unassing the AO post haste.
Yeah.
It's not a retreat. It's a tactical withdrawal.
Exactly.
Forthwith.
Yeah.
But multiple officers, 3 officers, 2 deputies, and a highway patrolman. Again, agencies that historically usually don't get along so well, told the same story and backed each other up.
Yeah, that's like you said, DA. This has always been one of my favorites too, just because it's for us. It's kind of like the holy grail of witness sightings because it's not just one officer; it's 3 at the same time.
3 officers from different agencies.
Yeah, and discharging a firearm where a report had to be. So let's break this down to brass tacks and say, okay. The trooper discharged his firearm negligently and they were trying to cover themselves.
That's not a story you'd tell.
That is not
to cover a single round expenditure.
That's not the story you come up with.
When I was working,
here's what we're going to do. I shot my shotgun, but we're going to say Bigfoot was charging us and I fired around, to scare him off. Y'all good with that?
You guys have met my old chief, Joe. If I'd have been on duty out in Walnut and I discharged my firearm at something and I let Joe know, first off, he would have been like, cool, let's go see it. But if I had an expenditure of ammo and if I said, hey, I found a dead deer in the road and I had to shoot it and put it down, he'd have been like, okay. And that's all they would have had to do. Said we had a dead animal in the road. We put it down. I put it down with 1 round.
All right, do a report. Information only.
Yep, replace the round.
Yeah.
Yeah. So saying that they fired a warning shot at a Bigfoot. Yeah, there are other things they could have said to explain that round, but they stuck to their story, and still do. I mean the officer, what was his name?
1978, wasn't it?
Yeah, that happened in 78. I think most of them are passed away now.
Yeah, but it was like in.
I think that documentary was filmed in the late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Because he was a pretty old dude when he was telling it, but he still told that exact same story we just told.
But there's no reason to put that in a report that's going to be there forever.
Right. Yeah, it might have been one of those cases where, one of them said, we probably shouldn't put this in a report. and the other one's like, we got it because I shot at it. And if their lights, that was 78, so there wouldn't have been a dash cam recorded.
There was no
I was thinking about that. The dash cam might have forced them to, but yeah, there was no dash cams back then.
But see, that even further cements why they would even, because there's nothing they don't have any in-car camera footage or any BWC,
no body cam, none of that.
Yeah, that make them have to tell that story. Which, so there's no reason for them to say that unless that was the 100% God's honest truth.
Right.
In my opinion, anyway.
Because that benefited them in no way, shape, or form.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It benefited them nothing to sit there and if they would have been making all that up.
Right.
100%.
But all three of those fellas basically retired, not changing their story.
What?
So again, that one, especially that story, has a lot of credibility for me, simply because of how much they had to lose in telling it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Miss Lone Queen says, so did they tell the truth versus say warning shot at a bear because locals were seeing it as well? Well, that they already had a call saying, somebody calling in saying they had something walking around. That teenager called it in. So, and then he also called it in on the radio, said there's something out here. It ain't human.
Yeah. If they were going to fudge the story, so to speak, they would have just said they shot at a bear.
Right.
There was a bear charging them, and they fired a warning shot at the bear to scare the bear off.
Right.
Exactly. In the story. No fuss, no muss, no harm, no foul. That would have been the end of the story. All the supervisors would have looked at it and said, "Oh, okay. Did you discharge it in a safe manner? Yeah. Was there any houses rent? Nope. Okay. That's it. Replace your round. Here you go."
Was any collateral damage hit by the shot?
So there again, for them to put that in the report the way they did and stick with the story from then till now, it just, in my mind, personal and professional, there's just no other reason other than it was true.
You know what I did when I worked out at Walnut? I bought four extra boxes of the exact same ammo we were issued, the Spear Gold Dot. I bought extra ammo of my own, so if I had to shoot at something like that, I just very calmly would have replaced the rounds and not said a word.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story about my old partner. Loved Brody to death, but Brody was a warrior. They went to back the county up. Guy ended up. Guy had a warrant on him. County went out there to serve the warrant. Brody and the other guy that was working in the city at the time went out to back him up. The guy shot himself. He was going to end up going back to jail for family court bench warrants, whatever. Well, Brody and Caleb were both in the house. Tried to tried to revive the guy. He was gone though. It was shotgun up here, gone. And so Sled had to come and interview everybody. How they had to count the rounds, all that kind of stuff. Well, while we were all waiting for Sled to get there, because this is outside the city. The funny thing is, our staff sergeant sometimes is apt to not count the rounds like he should be when he's giving you your duty rounds. So Brody's sitting there the whole time. Oh God, I hope Guthrie gave me the right amount of rounds. Oh, I hope he gave me the right amount of rounds. I hope he didn't short me rounds. He sat there for like 30 or 45 minutes, just sweating bullets, worrying if he had the right. Because they even got the guns out of his car that were not even. So he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill him if he gave me the wrong amount of rounds. I'm gonna kill him if he gave me. And it was funny, but it wasn't funny for him, but it was funny for the rest of us because you're like, Brody, just calm down. You have to. Oh God, I hope he gave me the right amount of rounds. But yeah, that's usually in situations like that. That's what happens. They're gonna come in. They're gonna be so. there again, that's just one more. If they had have done something they shouldn't have done, there's no reason to put that in there.
That's a very valid bit there, though, Robbie. What if the policy of those departments was an investigation had to be done for every round if a round was expired, and they had to tell the truth?
That's very possible, because that's why I said about I don't know how that particular highway patrol is, but I know here SCHP, they would, if it'd been a trooper that did that, they would have had to do an internal investigation. They have their own IA department. Anytime their gun is, even if it's a deer on the side of the road that got killed in a car wreck, and they have to put it out of its misery, IA has to come out and do an investigation.
Those oversight committees are serious. Those oversight committees are absolutely serious when it comes to expended rounds.
Yeah. So there again, even if it's, hey guys, I should, they're going to come and they're going to audit me. They're going to do an IA investigation. Y'all need to back me up on this. Why would these two deputies back him up on a Bigfoot story when it would have been so much easier to say they got out there and it was a bear that charged them? And that would have been,
yeah.
If they're going to fudge something, that would have been how they would have done it, in my opinion.
I would agree. Yeah, they had a lot more to gain by saying it was a bear or a wild dog or a coyote or something than they did by sticking to the Bigfoot story.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
can you imagine the looks on the investigators investigating the incident? Imagine on their face, like, you shot it. What?
Exactly.
Again.
Come again.
Yeah.
What now?
You're willing to say that under oath? Yeah. So, I imagine there was a few whiz quizzes involved with that incident.
Yeah.
I imagine so. That's the thing. If they had all that stuff bearing down on them,
it would have been just easier to say bear.
And here's the thing: if it wasn't a bear, and they knew they had all that stuff bearing down on them, pun intended, then they were like, "Well, we've got to tell the truth because we're going to be put on a polygraph. And if we say bear, it's going to show that we're lying, and then they're going to think we shot at somebody, and there's going to be this whole big investigation. We got to tell the truth.
Yeah, got no choice. Yeah, that makes sense. That what makes sense why they stuck with the Bigfoot story, because if there was a full investigation into the expenditure of ammo and they were going to put those boys on a polygraph, they had to tell the truth. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah,
Bob's your uncle. Crazy.
Well, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Darcy Den says, "Oh heck, I would have set the report down and just said." And said, just give me the cup now. You ain't gonna like this report.
Where do I begin? Yeah. Dear Chief, It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah. There I was, driving the back roads of the county. Yeah. I'm glad I never had to make one of those official reports. But I did have a couple of reports where I wrote, responded to a prowler call, found no evidence of a prowler, no vehicles, no anything, and the RP or reporting party said no, there was no vehicle. They came out of the trees back there.
Yeah, they went back up in the trees.
Yeah, and you've seen those woods out there on the edge of Walnut. That's some woolly area out there. I wouldn't go walking in them at night by myself. Okay. Richie says, real question, DA Robbie, how many of your cop buddies saw Bigfoot, etc., and quit being cops? I know a couple that did. I know one guy from down in Stone County who had something slap the back of his cruiser in Joe Bald because he pulled that in there to get away from everything to write a couple of reports. He was a Stone County deputy and he quit. And then that old boy I met at training, he eventually quit. I told you about it. He was in the deer stand and it took his came up and tried to take his lunchbox and he let it have it. Yeah. I think he ultimately ended up leaving law enforcement over it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if there are lots of cases where after seeing something like that, cop was just like, nope, time to install sighting. Ooh. But I'm glad you guys have been with us tonight. But the deeper you go into these encounters, the harder it becomes to pretend that they're just stories. I mean, these aren't campfire tales whispered by teenagers or blurry shapes caught on a shaky camera. These are voices of loggers, rangers, deputies, state troopers, people who knew the land, who knew the wildlife, and know when something's wrong. And every one of them saw something they couldn't explain. A predator pacing a cruiser in the desert night, a wolf-headed figure stalking a logging crew, a massive biped circling camp in the frozen dark, the cabin visitor that leaned on the door, a scream that shook the granite walls of Yosemite, a thin, impossible runner gliding through the timber, and a creature in Whitehall that stared down armed officers without fear. All different places, different witnesses, different creatures, but the pattern is similar. Something's out there. Something's watching, and it's learning. And the people who've seen it, the ones who felt its breath, heard its footsteps, and watched it vanish into the tree line, they all say the same thing. It wasn't supposed to be real, but it was. So as you step away from tonight's episode, remember this. The wilderness doesn't end where the map does. The dark doesn't stop at the edge of the firelight, and the creatures in these stories aren't trapped in the past. They're still out there, still moving, and still waiting for the next person to wander too far from the trail. So until next time, folks, keep your eyes open, keep your lights close at hand, and whatever you do, don't look back. So, hope you guys have enjoyed all of this tonight. Before we go, there's always things that we've got to do. We've been popping them up throughout the show. We've been trying to stay on top of that, but we need to discuss our affiliates, and one of them stepped away. So we'll start with say Scalawag Tactical tonight. Robbie, you want to tell us a little bit about Scalawag?
Yeah, let me get my handy dandy little prop here. Scalawag Tactical, one of our veteran-owned affiliates. Craig Burhart, great guy. His crew, Mike, and all the rest of the guys, top-notch blade makers, designers. They make some of the best blades that you can ever put your hands on. Go check them out. There's always something cool, something nice. And
they just introduced like 3 new blades too.
Yeah, they're constantly putting new stuff out there, but there is nothing like having a good blade in your hand. DA asks the question all the time when we do those shows. What are your top 3 things that you want with you in your go bag? And this is always my number 1 or 2, because if I've got this, there's a lot of stuff that I can do. If I don't have this, there's a whole lot of stuff that I can't do that I need to do. You've got to have a good blade, especially if you're going to go out in the woods and do stuff like that. But just anytime, a good EDC blade is invaluable. So go check them out. Use code DA Roberts 10 at checkout. Get yourself 10% off, and tell them we sent you.
Doc, you want to talk a little bit about Dark Angel Medical?
Sure. Just like having the necessary tools, like Robbie was just saying with that knife, you need to make sure you have a good med kit too. And don't trust your stuff to something you can get off of Amazon or Fleabay or anything like that. We put our stuff together in the shop, build them by hand, and write a thank you note on every order that comes in. And so we sell anything from small trauma kits, little minor first aid kits, all the way up to mass casualty bags, and bags for your car, bags for your boat, bags for your motorcycle, bags for your person. So we sell all kinds of stuff. So if you go over to darkangelmedical.com and use a coupon code Cryptid20, that'll give you 20% off your order. And we also do HSA and FSA eligible. We are HSA and FSA eligible. And if you use one of our kits to save someone's life, we'll be happy to replace what you've used absolutely 100% free of charge. That's called our Kit for Life Guarantee. And if you got a kit, make sure you get the training, know how to use it. Look at our online training, look at our in-person training, look at our YouTube channel, and we want to get you trained up and get you squared away. So head over to darkangelmedical.com and get that kit, get trained to be the difference.
Absolutely. Packing birthdays and boxes.
Packing birthdays and boxes.
And Doc, how many saves did you say you have now?
We're up to 211. That
is just absolutely fantastic, brother.
How you like
proud
that?
Proud of you guys. I'm very proud of you boys.
Thank you. It's a wonderful thing, man. Wonderful thing.
And our other significant affiliate is Sigwo Arms. SigwoArms.com. Check them out. They're a weapons manufacturer from here in Springfield, Missouri, and they're the only ones that currently hold the licensing for making Codename Wild Hunt or Dark Frontiers or any of the other logos from the books. If you want it on a upper or lower, they're the folks that can do it for you. So reach out, get a hold of the Codys. You can get a hold of either one of them through info at sigwo.com. They're just a good group of guys, ex-military, just a fantastic company, and they have fantastic deals on ammunition because they make it in-house. I recently picked up, I think it was 200 rounds of 9mm hollow point for $54, which is a really good deal. And they've got ammo specials running constantly. So check them out. They'll ship anywhere with an FFL, and give them a like on Facebook as well, but check out sigwoarms.com, and don't forget to use discount code Bigfoot5 for 5% off your entire order. And believe me, that does add up pretty fast, especially when you're dealing with something along those lines of a pew-pew. And if you're a current first responder or a veteran or active duty, make sure you let them know that when you place your order, because that 5% jumps to 10% if you're a member of law enforcement, a first responder, or a veteran active duty. So check them out. Let them know let them know that we sent you, and you won't be disappointed. Another big shout out to our mods tonight. They did an awesome job. We love our mods. They do a great job. But last but not least, the last thing we'll talk about before we wind things down is we've got some authors in the house, and shockingly, the group has grown by one. But you can check out Robbie's books. He's got 7 books currently in print, getting ready to drop an 8th. Just fantastic, very prolific writer. He's doing a fantastic job. He has really progressed a lot since he first released his first book. Yeah. He's doing really well. And check out his books. They just so happen to coincide with mine. They exist in the same universe. So check out Robbie's books. You can find all of Robbie's books on Amazon.com in Kindle, print, and audio formats. And you can find all of my books at Amazon and Amazon.com and daroberts.net, also in Kindle, print, and audio formats. And while you're at it, check out Luca T. Jacobs. She's a fantastic writer that writes in a similar genre to us, and very, very good writer, very talented lady. And her books are awesome. Those Nicole Beretti books are very, very fun reads. And she writes cryptids and things like that too. So I think you enjoy her. Check her out at lucatjacobs.com or on Amazon.com in the same formats as Robbie and I. And Doc's book, his first book, Doc, what's it called?
It's called Dark Frontiers, Vampire Chronicles, Book 1, The Angels of the Wilderness.
So it's in edits now, and we're hoping to get a cover done. And Robbie, Doc's already got some concepts done for the cover, and it's looking pretty dang cool. Yep. And hopefully we can get that one, edited, formatted, and out for him here in the very near future. So watch here and watch on all of our Facebooks for release information. But hopefully we'll have something come for you guys pretty soon.
Yeah.
Doc and I are going to be working on his formatting and all that stuff probably either tomorrow or sometime next week, and I'm gonna get him in touch with Luca. So hopefully we'll get him out.
And I'm already in chapter 4 of book 3.
Nice. Book 3?
Yeah, I mean book 2. Sorry, book 2.
Dang!
Yeah, you call me fast?
I'm about 17,000 words into it so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
We both did book 3 at the same
Yeah,
time.
no, sorry. I meant I just got
New York City.
chapter 3 of book 2. Yeah. So
So be watching for release information for Doc's new book. Robbie's got a new book coming out, and I'm at about 47,000 words in Codename Wild Hunt, Leviathan Down. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. I'm having a lot of fun writing it, really ratcheting up the tension. Things are about to get spicy in this one. So, folks, we've got all 3 got release announcements coming up real soon, and I hope you guys will stick with us. And Luca just released a new one too, so check her new books out as well. And again, folks, daroberts.net, lucatjacobs.com, or all 3 of us on Amazon.com and Kindle print and audio formats. But as we wind things up, there's one thing I always got to mention, and that is the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. So reach out and check on your friends and family that are first responders. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you think about it, thinking about them, and let them know you care, because we're losing first responders, law enforcement, and anybody in uniform, veterans, and even active duty. And it's something that weighs heavy on them. And every one of these folks have had to deal with things that sometimes it's very hard to live with. Because you see things and you experience things that human mind really wasn't meant to comprehend. So don't let them fight these demons alone, because PTSD is a deadly beast. It's taken too many lives too far too early. So again, reach out, let them know you're thinking about them, let them know you care, let them know there are resources available. Check out the mission22.org. That's a great one if you're a veteran, you're looking for assistance. The Till Valhalla Project, the ODMP Officer Down Memorial page. Check them out, folks, because those resources are available and they're out there. Don't give up. Don't let the hard days win. And as we head into the end of the show, we like to end the show with a toast, and I will put that up. Let me bring that one up right now. And Robbie, how about you take us out with the toast tonight, brother?
Yes, sir. Everybody raise a glass. Don't matter what you're drinking, but follow along with us. This is an old Irish drinking song called The Parting Glass. But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Good night. Thank you for being here with us tonight. We'll see you next time. Slanja.
Slanja.
Plains, the winds are howling, saloon doors swinging, shadows growling. 3 lawmen stand tough as rawhide. Yeah, Doc and DA, nothing can abide. Whiskey shots and poker faces, staring down the darkest spaces in this town where legends roam. These boys bring justice, sending evil home. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Jed's a howler, claws of steel, Doc's a biter, makes the devil real. But DA's a shifty one, a shape-shifting soul, can turn to anything, takes any form, takes control. Tonight the chupacabras come to town, sucking the life from all around. But these lawmen, they ain't afraid, they'll face the darkness unafraid. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rain. against the endless night. Bat wings flap, the air grows cold, a chill and trap. But these lawmen, they're ready to fight underneath the pale moonlight. Jet and dock transform with a howl. DA shifts, becomes a night owl.